This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome everybody to a very gloomy, eerie Djuma private game reserve in the Sabi Sands, where it's currently 12 degrees Celsius, 54 degrees Fahrenheit, and this morning's game drive is dedicated to Christine Brunner, or should we call her Chris, chat name Chris in Olympia, WA. She lives in Olympia, Washington, south of Seattle in the United States. She's been watching Safari Live on and off since September 2011. She visited here a little while ago. I can't remember the date, and we met. So hi, Chris, nice to have you on the show again, and we will look forward to answering some of your questions. My name is Steve, joined by Davisito on camera, and very excited to have all of you with us. Please, kids, if you have any questions, kidquestions@wildearth.tv. We'd love to hear from you. And this morning, I'm going to see if I can just bumble around and pick up on any tracks. Check the morning newspaper. Wade through the misty morning that we are presented with. And who knows what last night will provide. There are hyena tracks all over the place. I'm going to see if I can find any signs of the Queen Tundi. But on the way there, you never know what we might bump into. It's a wonderful day. And it's lovely to have my good friend Davisito back on the vehicle with me. There we go, the open areas of quarantine that I anticipated a herd of zebra to have materialized on last night. We haven't seen them. So possible that they went straight through quarantine, or not even quarantine, but straight up to the north into Pufusuk, the area around Sydney's Dam, which is also nice and open. But also what we've noticed in the past, and when these open areas are free of animals in the morning, it's very important to check very carefully, because it's a very good chance that somebody has been hunting. Just hear the squawking, squeaking of some brown-headed parrots, and I'm just going to stop there for just a moment and allow the dawn to settle upon all of you, and allow you a moment just to breathe it all in. It is a lovely misty morning. If you can hear those brown-headed parrots squawking. Feeding on these terminalia fruits. There's also some starlings calling. There's a fork-tailed drongo. Practicing a little bit of hawking this morning. And they are very vocal, fork-tailed drongos, able to mimic and create many different sounds in their bird song. Ooh, one on the right is a hornbill. Cleaning his beak, you can see the size difference between the two. Okay, well, I'm not alone in the mist this morning. Tristan Dix is out as well, and he would like to wish you good morning.
It is absolutely beautiful this morning, albeit cold. It is seriously pretty, this kind of layering effect that the mist is having over the entire area with that Absolutely beautiful. And so the plan is to try and find something really cool in this mist. It just lends itself to epic views, and so if we could find elephants or a male lion roaring or a leopard in a tree or wild dogs running through the mist, well, that's what we're going to look for. And so the plan is for us is to try and head up to this northern area, and then we're going to do a full boundary patrol. We're going to go around the entire boundary and see what has crossed into Djuma or Simambili or Chitwa during the course of the night. Right, my name is Tristan, as Steve would have mentioned, and on camera I've got BK this morning. It's not an afternoon, it's a morning. And so hopefully it's going to be a good morning. Lots of promise for something special. I'd even take an owl sitting in a dead tree, I think, in this mist, or maybe even a vulture. It would certainly add to the atmosphere of a vulture, wouldn't it? So that's the plan, is to try and check around. We know that the dogs are coming in and out from the main levee towards Buffalo a lot. So always at this time of the day, good to just check and see what's going on. I suspect that the pack that they're seeing there is not denning too far away. So I thought I'd just come up this way, just have a little look around. And then also we know that the Nkuhumas are somewhere on our western side. So if they're going to come in, they're going to come in from this direction. And then, yeah, anything else that can come our way, you never know. Maybe Hukamuri or Shidulu or Kara. There's all kinds of different options when one drives around this side, and we haven't seen Shidulu since we've been here, so that would be a really nice one to find, that's for sure. This mist is just so beautiful, eerie but beautiful. There's just something about when it's misty out in the bush that is just makes for a really interesting feel to it. Everything seems a lot quieter and duller. I don't know if it's because of the mist and its moisture content within the air, that sound just doesn't travel as well. Even though it's cold, but it seems like everything is just a lot more quiet when it's misty, and like I say, it has quite an eerie feel to it, particularly in the nowadays where we're not having a lot of vehicles driving around, so the radio is quiet and you're kind of just weaving your way through this misty landscape, knowing that there's all kinds of cool creatures that you could find. Eventually are quite dangerous, so quite like it when it's misty like this. Like I said, it's a little cold, but otherwise all good. We're just going to drive up towards Sydney's Dam. It's not the greatest signal area, I'm afraid, but you never know. If the dogs are around there, we can just park a little bit higher. They've been pretty consistent updates. They're at Jacana or Sydney's Dam, which is to our north. Yeah, they just this morning. Be rather pleasant to see them, as well as the fact that we know, with mist and cool weather like this, a lot of the predators will still be fairly active right now. So if the dogs aren't around, you never know what else you can find. I'm still on the search for Corky and to see where she is. So we've been checking every single den of late that they've used in the past, and so far it hasn't yielded anything. But we'll continue to check around. There's always hyena tracks in this area, so it's not the worst place to have a little look around. Now when I come here, I always like just to double check this section, because this is an area where Hukamuri often crosses, so it's just a good place to check. Okay, while we go up to the northern boundary and go and just check up this side, let's send you across to and beyond Pinda for the first time this morning, so that they can say good morning.
Hello everybody, and welcome to and beyond Pinda Private Game Reserve. My name's Jared Dupria, and we've got Marcel behind the camera. Thumbs up from Marcel. And we would like to welcome you to a misty, pretty warm morning here at and beyond Pinda Private Game Reserve. But look what we've been able to find for you. A pride of lions, everyone. How fantastic. So for those of you who watched last night, you saw Damon with the pride of lions. This is a different pride of lions. At the moment, we've got 2 adult females and 5 youngsters who are just under a year old. And not too far off in the distance is the 2 male lions that were with the pride of lions that Damon had yesterday. And I do believe they are walking this way at the moment. And you'll notice that all the lions are busy looking off to my right, towards the hillside. And that's the direction that the males are coming from. So I suspect that maybe these cubs and females have seen the males, which is fantastic news, because then we might have some interaction and some greeting between the pride and the males, and we're actually able to find this pride because we heard them roaring, and exactly where we are now is where they were roaring, and so they were communicating with the males. So I'm sure the males are roaring to them, and they roared back. Ooh, I think I can see one of the males, and that's just how they were able to find each other. Now the males will be roaring to the females because they want to join up and hopefully be able to hunt with the females, and the females will want the males to be there to maybe help them take down something larger. But for now, I'm sure there's not going to be any hunting. I'd imagine it's how a lot of you kids back home get excited when your parents come back from work, and I think that's exactly what happened there. Is that young male came running over to his father to greet him. Yeah, and the male couldn't care at all. He has no interest in the youngsters at the moment. He joined up with the females, and hopefully they can go off and hunt. Days means that they haven't fed in a while, so I'm assuming that they haven't fed from between last night and now. Have a look how they're all greeting each other, everyone. So it looks like one of the adult females is, and the rest of the youngsters in the flicking it from side to side towards the male. Right, I just want to reposition so Marcel's got a good view and to give you all a fantastic view. Oh, what a
good morning, everyone, and welcome to this side of the Sunrise Safari with me, Ryan. Behind the camera, we've got OD. We have zero plans for this morning. Well, I mean, we have a plan, but we're not really focused on finding anything. So we are just driving around, and I think what we might do is check down the eastern boundary, going south, see if we can find whatever came in. So of course we're driving these roads quite slowly and just watching what tracks might have crossed this road coming into and beyond Ingala throughout the night. So last night at about 8:30 we had a leopard rasping in front of camp. It looks like the tracks of Tambuti Tom. He's the territorial leopard here, but he walked east, and from camp to the eastern boundary is about maybe 450, 500 meters. So if he called that 8:30, no doubts about it, he's gone. So we're going to continue south and see what else crossed in, hopefully into and beyond Ingala rather than going out. It is quite chilly. I've got the sniffles. I know Odie has the sniffles as well. A little bit misty, so every now and then the camera fogs up and it looks like we're driving in Scotland, which is actually quite cool to see. But so mind Odie's hand every now and then just cleaning the lens. But yeah, glad to be out. It looks like it's going to be a stunning day. There's not a single cloud in the sky. Should be quite nice. Hopefully we're going to find something interesting in the south. Fingers crossed the Borough Pride might be here. There's a big tower to our left. And yeah, so just show that if we were here a little bit earlier, you'd have a lot of baboons sleeping in there. They're saying a very nice fashion statement, hat over beanie. Dave, if you were here, you'd be doing exactly the same. My earlobes were freezing without it. So yeah, the baboons have now taken on to sleeping in that tower. They climb up the steel and they sleep there because no leopard can climb that tower. However, leopards can climb the trees here. So they've moved on to the tower rather than sleeping in the trees. You can see it's a little bit misty still in the dips, but I'm sure the sun will burn this away very, very soon. Okay, so while we go check out the south and some of the boundaries, we're going to send you back over to Djuma with Tristan and a wildebeest.
Indeed, we are sitting with some wildebeest. It's just everything looks so much better when there's mist like this. I don't know why. It just makes for a very kind of cool scene. And so stopping for the wildebeest and just watching them feed, and you kind of got this mist roving through the drainage line behind them. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a pity they're not on the other side because the sun is rising now and the mist is taking on this beautiful kind of orange color. So it would have been nice for them to be on the other side, but well, that's the way it goes, and it's still a pretty scene, that's for sure. Now this herd has been hanging around here a lot of late. I don't know why they've kind of moved from quarantine and are spending more time here. It could be due to the fact that they've got quite a lot of water, and it's a lot more open in a bigger area here. Once you go northwards towards Sydney's Dam, it becomes really quite clear there, and so spotting things like lions is going to be a lot easier. Also, the lions have been spending very little time in this particular section, so the Talamatis, the Nkumas, all of them are not spending time in this area. I just quickly got Steve calling me on the radio. Steve, I'll shut you now, I'm just live. And so, you know, that's maybe why these wildebeest are not moving too much. Maybe we're getting a situation where they are happy in this area. They know they're not getting pressured by lions. They've got a fairly clear area. They've got water, good grass to graze on. And so it makes sense for them to kind of hang around this particular part of the world. At some stage, though, the lions will come here. As it's starting to dry out, Sydney's Dam is going to become a much better option for a lot of animals to drink at. You know, those mud wallows are going to slowly but surely start to die down and dry up. And once it dries up, then obviously, you know, it's going to be much better for animals to come into these areas. So these wildebeest, I'm sure at some point will encounter lions here, and maybe that will push them back to quarantine. But for now, it's just about enjoying this little open space. Is it just me, or was there one missing? Or one of the little ones? I'm sure I saw another little one here the other day. Anyway, it's difficult to keep track of these wildebeest because you don't always know if you're looking at the same herd. I mean, we suspect it's the same group because you find them in the same areas, but our plan was almost right. So I just got an update on the radio now that the dogs were seen just north of Sydney's Dam, but they've already run into the Manyeleti. So even if we had gotten to Sydney's Dam now, we wouldn't have seen them. But it just goes to show that they are around most mornings, and one just needs to try. The other thing is that it's so misty that even if they were at the dam, we wouldn't be able to see them, which is pretty crazy. But yeah, they've run into Manyeleti now, which is, like I say, not ideal, unfortunately. Beautiful nonetheless. Mary, who's 11 years old, you're asking if the mist frustrates animals with fur. I mean, it's obviously probably not very comfortable because it's going to make them feel damp. So if you've ever left something in the mist, you know that it gets wet, because basically mist is just air that's condensing, and you're getting this kind of layer of moisture, and so it's I suppose in a way will make them a little bit wet and cold. But I think probably the thing that irritates them the most about mist is that it really hampers their ability to see nicely. So thick mist means that they can't really see predators coming, as easily as they would when there's no mist. It's much harder for them to do that. Also, generally when you've got a lot of mist, it means that there's very little airflow, so there's no wind, and that means that scent is difficult to see. Oh, bless you, wildebeest. Is the scent is not as easy to pick up, and so I think that's probably where mist irritates them more than the actual moisture being on their fur. Remember, these guys live through a summer where it rains and they get kind of caught in big rainstorms, so they generally are able to kind of deal with mist fairly well. It's not a problem. Talking about mist, you'll see every now and then BK will wipe the lens. That's just because of the mist, unfortunately, gathering on the lens, and kind of makes this sort of, it makes the picture look a bit fuzzy. It's probably the best way to put it. All right, wildebeest, we're going to carry on. You guys have been wonderful. You can see two of them are having a little play fight actually on the left here. It's quite interesting. It's two females at this stage, or it looks like two females, maybe. Yeah, it is two females. Now generally you don't see them kind of clashing horns too much, but nice to kind of see them every now and then just turning their heads and sort of pretending to play a little bit. Now, I was going to leave them, but unfortunately with our signal there's no ways that I can drive off from these guys just yet, so we'll stay with them for a little bit longer, otherwise we're not going to be able to do it. But like I said, these little games that they're playing now is more just to essentially butt heads. It's a little bit of a practice that if they do potentially have to fight, that they start working out a technique. It also helps with just strengthening the neck area. You generally don't see it in cows. It's normally young bulls or males that do this, but it looks, like I say, the one facing away towards us looks like a cow. The one away from us, I'm not sure. Difficult to see because you can't see its head nicely. To be able to ID a wildebeest, you generally look on the forehead as to whether they're a boy or a girl. The forehead being quite brown normally indicates a girl, and that the horns are fairly close together. Male wildebeest horns separate slightly, and they generally have a dark forehead. But like I say, when it's young males, it can potentially still be a little bit brown, so a little bit tricky. It's definitely a bull that's closest to us. All right, we're going to carry on here. We're going to actually move on and try and see what else we can find. In the meantime, though, let's send you back across to and beyond, I think, Pinder, and see how they do.
All right, everyone, I'm just going to keep quiet. The lions are busy roaring. I'll get to you now. Fantastic to start off with some lions roaring. Hello everyone, my name's Jared Duprier, and today we're live at Pinder Private Game Reserve, and behind the camera we've got Marcel. And look what we've managed to find for you today, a pride of lions. I do apologize earlier, we did crash out. We had some technical difficulties, but they've been sorted. And in that time, that when you first was with me and now, we've had some male lions join up with the pride. And so you'll see, if Marcel will show you, there's two males, actually the two males that Damon had yesterday evening with Mountain Pride, and they've walked quite a long distance today to get to this area, and they finally joined up with the pride of lions that they spend most of their time with, which is in the south of the reserve. And so right now there's two males, two females, and three cubs, and we can actually hear another lioness roaring off in the distance. So that roaring that we had just now was from the one female to the other. So they've been roaring to the males earlier. The males have now joined up, and now they're looking for the third adult female of this pride. It does sound like she's somewhere down at the base of the hill, and you'll see now that she's starting to walk off. Her 5 cubs are also starting to follow. Now when I say her 5 cubs, that is incorrect. There's 3 cubs from one of the females that's here and 2 cubs from another. Oh, we've got some cubs busy stalking each other. Oh, take down. Oh, and I'd just like to give a special warm welcome to all the kids that are watching today. I hope that you enjoy this morning drive with me, and how perfect to view some lions with little kiddies. And here we have some of them busy playing with each other. And this playing that you're busy watching right now is very typical for lion cubs at this age. They're learning how to hunt, they're learning how to fight. By doing this, they're getting hand-eye coordination, or as I like to call it, paw-eye coordination, and building the necessary muscles and skills for later on in life. Now, although they pounce on each other and swat at each other and bite at each other, they are quite gentle. All right, everyone. So we're going to stick with these lions for now, see what they do. They may head off into the direction where that other lioness was busy roaring, but for now we're going to head off over to Steve. Welcome back to Zuma, everybody. We just had the most random sighting of a green-backed heron, also known as a striated heron, that just flew out of who knows where and came and landed on a branch next to us. Now, I think there's a little pan here. Ooh, putting my gloves back on. I think there's a pan here. There used to be a pan. Yes, there's still some water. Now, the striated heron or greenback heron are water-loving birds. I've actually seen them. There we go. Is that him there? There he is, Darby. Just on the edge there. There he is. Small little heron. You can see why they call them the striated, because those lines on the chest. Now, they catch frogs and dragonflies. I've actually seen one fishing before with an insect in a flowing stream, where they put the insect down, they allow the stream to pull it downstream, and they keep picking it up and putting it upstream until a fish eventually goes to catch it. It's the most amazing thing to see, such amazing techniques and instinctive and also learned behavior. I've also seen one catching dragonflies. Now, if you've ever tried to catch a dragonfly before, everybody, they are incredibly fast, but these herons have got a lightning strike of a beak. Look at that. Boom. Plucking little insects off the surface. There are multitudes of these little pans around the reserve. Ephemeral pans, slowly drying up. As they dry up, any organisms that have survived in them slowly but surely lose their sort of environment, and it becomes easier and easier for herons and storks to catch prey, especially if there are fish inside. There wouldn't be any fish inside this little water body, but a very good chance of there being a number of frogs and insects. That very long, sharp beak, able to focus with those eyes and pinpoint accuracy. He's just plucking very small insects right now. Sarah, there are such pretty birds everywhere, in fact. This is definitely one of them. Very typical neck. You see that sort of bent back neck, and then they lash out. It's a very typical sort of design of a heron. Long, straight beak for piercing and for catching. Many different herons that we find around. This is one of the ones we find throughout the year around water points, water bodies, but we'll be moving around in search of food. Seasonal pans are an amazing attractor for fish-eating and frog-eating birds. You can imagine when that pan is full, you'd be completely under the water. Make it a little bit more difficult to catch. Those large feet for purchase in the mud.
Hello, Bob. 6 years old. Yes, they eat insects and frogs and tadpoles, which are baby frogs. Look at that neck. It's a long neck, isn't it? Uses it as a spear to lash out and catch prey. I don't know if there's anything else on the diet. Maybe small mollusks, little snails. I'm not certain about that. I could check it though. But definitely insects, fish, small fish. So boys and girls, if you have any questions, please send them through to kidssquestions@wildearth.tv. We'd love to answer your questions for another little while. Oh, look at that. He's a feeding bonanza this morning. This is a youngster. Very, very striated chest. Fish, frogs, and a wide range of aquatic insects and animals. So that could mean, what other animals do you find in the water? Definitely not hippos or crocodiles, that's for sure. They're way too big. A very pretty bird, isn't it? Very special to see them. They're normally quite skulky, but incredibly camouflaged, as you can see. I knew it had flown to this pan, but it took us a moment to see it. A very good adaptation for hiding in long reed-like vegetation that you would find in and around water points, rivers, lakes. A very slow, deliberate movement. You can see that the eyes lock on and the feet prepare the body for the right position, and you're ready for it. It's going to be a lightning quick strike when it happens, or maybe not. So with a long beak like that, you get quite a specialist feeding behavior, able to plunge the beak into the water and to catch organisms, but then also they're able to just pluck little individual insects off the surface of the water. Remember that insects, if you've ever had a swimming pool, seen how many insects you find on the surface of the swimming pool, that's what happens at watering holes as well, in lakes and dams. Insects end up drowning and they basically just float along the surface, and many of these birds will move around and feed on them, pick off the waste. Okay, well, from a very efficient aquatic hunter, I'm going to send you over to and beyond Phinda with their terrestrial hunters.
Welcome back, everyone. Not much has happened since you've been gone, although one of the lionesses has moved off to the left of these lines to the mountain range, where the third adult lioness of this pride has been roaring, and the baboons, literally up till now, have been going absolutely mental. Just like the impala we had earlier, the baboons were also alarming at that lioness, saying, "Lioness, we can see you, you cannot hunt us," but then also letting all the other animals in the area know that these lions are around. So they're not only looking after themselves, but they're looking after all the other herbivores in these areas. And we've just started at the right time. The cubs are playing again. It is a lovely, cool morning. So I do suspect that these cubs will be playing like this all throughout the morning. Oh, fantastic. So this pride of lions that we're busy viewing at the moment is known as the Biola Pride, and they have 5 cubs, and all 5 of those cubs are young males. So just imagine that one day we may have a very large coalition of male lions. 5 of them, if they manage to survive. But for now, they're busy learning how to survive by tackling each other, pouncing on each other, swatting at each other. Maria, yes, it is most certainly practical for lions to practice playing, and this play that they're busy doing at the moment is so they can learn how to hunt later. So you'll often watch that you'll have one of the cubs busy running away, and the other cub will come up behind and pounce and almost pull down the sibling just like they would for prey. But then the play that they do isn't just to practice hunt, it also is to practice fighting. Now that fighting could be fighting with each other over a kill, which does often happen with lions, or it could be when different prides of lions come together and they need to fight over their territory. Looks like we've got 2 groups of playing now. We've got 2 males off to the right, and the one busy biting the tail of his brother. And like I said earlier, we've got 5 youngsters, and 2 are from one mother and 3 are from the other. And if I'm looking at them now, the 2 that we have off to the right are siblings, and then the 3 that we had off busy playing to the left, who have now just lain down, are siblings. And the mothers of this pride have left the cubs with their fathers to keep a watch out while they go up and join with the 3rd female. And I suspect the reason why the 3 females have all joined up together is to go off and hunt. And what they will do is when they make a kill, either these lions here will hear them making the kill and go bouldering over, or once they kill whatever they hunt, they'll come back and fetch the cubs and the males and then walk them towards the direction where their meal's going to be. It looks like we've got an inquisitive youngster who's decided to come have a look at Dewald and Brendan. Got to love little lion cubs at this age. They're so inquisitive and playful. Generally with the adults, you always see them busy sleeping, not doing too much. Oh, he's wondering why is Dewald driving off. So Liam from Durban, these lion cubs are just under a year old now. And it is almost their 1-year birthday. Now, you may wonder, but they look quite big for a year. And that is because Pinde lions generally have a very good diet. And they don't go very long periods of time without feeding. We've got plenty Impala, Inyala, wildebeest, zebra, warthogs. And so they're constantly feeding. All right, everyone, we're going to leave these lion cubs busy feeding, and we're going to head over to Tristan, who has my favorite animal, some wild dogs.
We do indeed. We've managed to find 4 wild dogs. Pretty epic. I'm trying to keep up with them, which is not epic. Being on your own trying to follow dogs is really difficult as well. So it's just kind of cutting against us a little bit. They were on the road, but of course, as when lions run off the road into this horrible thicket, if we're going to follow try. I mean, there's no other vehicle in the it's not a lot of dogs to keep an eye on. When you've got packs, and that's much, just the 4, not easy at all. And one of them is Talamar. I've got 3 cancers. Well, unfortunately the dogs are gone. Sometimes couldn't get right. So it's tricky when that's the case. Hopefully we can find them again. It's the only thicket that is. I'm going to just go around back towards, because they were running on the fire break, so I suspect that that's the way that they're heading, trying to flush. We were actually tracking Hukamuri, and that's when... Alright, I'm going to try and find these dogs, try and get better signal, try and, I don't know, do something to change the recipe. While Tswalu Kalahari.
And good morning everyone from another magical day in the Kalahari, Tswalu Kalahari. It is just a beautiful day out here, and we've got something really fun for all of us to join in with this morning. We're very close to our meerkat burrows over here. They're just across to the right, the burrow system. It's Master Genre on camera work again this morning, and Dylan, myself, welcome, and I'm really glad that you can be with us. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to spend quite a bit of time again with the meerkats, but we're going to throw it out to the viewers. We've selected for the matriarch, the alpha female in this group, we've selected 3 names that we're going to put out there for viewers to vote on. And the names are Mosadi, which means female in Tswana. These are all Tswana names. So the Mosadi means female. Then we've got Bontle, which means beautiful, and then Kabelo, which means brave. And you'll see the hashtags coming up on the screen over there. But if you could use those names when you vote for them, and you can vote on Twitter as well, just hashtag Kabelo, Bontle, or Mosadi. And then please also use the Wild Earth hashtag as well. I think this is going to be a really fun thing. You know, she's put so much effort into this, as the matriarchs do. And a lot of you out there will know what I'm talking about. You know, looking after a group like this, raising the youngsters, you know, leading this group is a really challenging task and a difficult thing to do. And it's just, I think now that we know she's got little pups, we actually spoke to the habituator yesterday, and she's saying, interestingly, with this particular group of meerkats, normally they'll come out at about 3 weeks, but occasionally she's actually brought the pups out even earlier. So I think we're going to spend a lot more time here than I was originally planning, and hopefully we're actually going to get that critical moment when those little ones come out above ground. But like I say, if you can please vote for one of those 3 names, and that is going to be for the matriarch. So it's Kabelo, Bontle, or Mosadi, and use those hashtags and hashtag Wild Earth as well. But please join us on this, participate. It's going to be a really fun journey, and it's just great having you with us to be able to do this. We're waiting for sunrise now. It's probably another 10 minutes away. But look at that, eh? Look at that scenery. Look at those colors. And just remember, you can vote on Twitter as well. At the end of drive, we'll be linked onto Twitter there, so please feel free to get onto that platform as well. Yeah, and let's just see how this goes. It's going to be really cool getting this. Okay, there she is. This is her name. It just gives us something to sink our teeth into there. But in another, I reckon another 10 to 15 minutes, they're going to be up. And Jandra and I, we're taking a bet every morning to see which burrow they pop out of, because we've got, although we know which one, that we think we know which one the pups are in, they've been popping out of a different one every morning, the adults. So we're kind of taking like a little bet between us as to which burrow they pop out of, and then which direction they actually head off foraging in. And in a whole week, neither of us have been right. so I think with time we'll learn. But we'll keep you posted on that as well. But like I say, guys, Mosadi, Bontle, and Kabelo. Those are the 3 names. Use those hashtags and hashtag Wild Earth. I see, looking in terms of time, we're actually just done with the kids drive section as well. Of course, any of you kids that are joining us on this, please feel free to stay on, but we're opening questions to everyone now as well. I just want to show you something from where, in fact, we can have a look over here. You see all these tracks around here. These are very, very good signs that these burrows have been used a lot by meerkats. All these small prints here. They're not very distinct in this very soft sand, but you can actually see the tail, these tail marks as well. And there's another one over there. Those are the tail marks. And we're thinking this is the burrow that they're using a lot. They're doing a lot of maintenance on when they start moving out in the mornings. So we're going to set up now a little bit further away. They're actually not steeping in this burrow. They're in the other burrows, but they come to this one first, maintain it as a bolt hole, and then they move off from here. So we're going to now move a little bit further back, get ourselves nicely settled, set up, and then we're going to see what transpires. But while we're doing that, we're going to set up there, I think head over to And Beyond Ngala, and let's see what they've got. And I really hope they get you some awesome sightings this morning.
Hello and welcome back. So we drove the eastern boundary, and it wasn't so much as looking for tracks as we actually looked for the road. It is so overgrown because, as you can imagine, no one's really been driving there. So very, 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 very overgrown. Where we are now, though, is called Deep Quarry, and yeah, it's just a watering hole that we wanted to check out. Maybe a little bit early for anything to come drink. But what I've come to notice is there's an old hippo skull here, and this hippo was killed by another big male hippo. It was a territorial takeover, and so every single time I come past here, I fix this hippo skull. So it's actually something really cool to look at. So you can imagine big tusks coming through here and another 2 coming through here. That's the dangerous part. And of course the top of the head, huge. And there we go. So I've come to imagine that I play a game with probably one of the elephants here, where I rebuild the hippo skull every single time, then an elephant comes and kicks it off. As you can imagine, I'm not really a big fan of long socks, but I do it every now and then, like this morning because it was very cold. Again, let me put my blankie around me. Like an old man, feel like a grandpa. And there we go. Hippo all in order again. William, see you later. But yeah, like I said, nothing coming to drink just yet. I don't think it's hot enough. So we're going back to the eastern boundary and then heading further south. It is warming up quite nicely though. I've taken my gloves off and the beanie's gone. So Dave, no more fashion statement. Okay, so while we continue checking the eastern boundary, we're going to send you back to Steve on Djuma for an update.
Thank you and welcome back. We've found ourselves a little covey of crested francolins that are busy scratching around in the ground. The feed, it's got itself an insect, does it? No? They feed almost primarily on insects in summer. Let's quickly go over to Tristan.
Right. You can see we've managed to catch up with the 4 dogs. Thankfully, they've come onto the road. They're busy running now towards the gate. Eventually, they pop to the road. It's been to find these guys. We've been back and forth, trying to find. I'm pretty sure they're part of the same pack that ends in the Manuletti, so which would be the Investec breakaways. I think, is part of that. Be 7 adults in that. But like I say, there seems to be one that just stays back in Manuletti all the time, and that individual seems to be the female. So I'm sure they've got puppies at the moment, and this will just be one of their hunts that they go on when they go and look for food, and then they catch, and then they'll go back to the den and regurgitate for the little puppies, which is pretty cool. It doesn't look like they fed this morning. It seems as though for now they're still looking. We saw an Impala run past, and that's how we kind of ended up getting to where they are. They're going to go, of course, to an area where there's very little signal again, which is not ideal, but it's the way it goes, I'm afraid. Let's just see where they go from here. Linda, you say your favorite animal? Yes, they are a favorite of quite a few people, just from a point of view that they are so fascinating to watch and so energetic about the way that they do things. They are incredibly difficult animals to follow. They really aren't easy from a point of view of off-roading and trying to keep up with them. They move much quicker than most, and so it makes life difficult. But the plus side of that is just how incredibly efficient they are and how active they are. So generally sightings with them is always a bit of chaos kind of mixed in with the movement that they're doing. They're normally chasing things. They attract the attention of hyenas, which often then leads to interactions with them, and so you get all kinds of really cool situations that take place with wild dogs. And so it's generally just non-stop with them, and to get a moment like this where they just stand still for 2 seconds is very, very, very lucky. Where are you going now? What happened? That dog just got a fright and ran. But I don't see from what. Like I say, we were tracking Hukamuri in this area, or I think it's Hukamuri. It's a male leopard going into Simambili, and that's how we found them. But I don't think it was that scared that dog. Maybe it's the anti-poaching dogs that are at the gate that barked or something like that. I didn't hear them though. That dog definitely got a fright and ran. The other dog's wondering what is going on. You can see it too is just standing there as if to say, well, what just happened? You might see people walking around in the back. Unfortunately, like I say, that's the anti-poaching unit. They're busy at the moment, so they'll be up and down. Robin, they do. I mean, it's a very misunderstood social structure and social relationships that they have. A lot of people think that packs are very, very strict and that there's a pack and that's it. Nothing changes within the pack. It's not true. Wild dogs have a huge amount of diversity in their life in terms of packs that they spend their time in. There's many, many different dogs that change packs, go to different ones, then they go to another one. In fact, there was a male dog that was in the south of Kruger that was in 7 different packs at one point. So it gives you an idea that they're actually quite sort of transient between these packs. And that's obviously to push them to try and make sure that they breed and are in a situation where they are finding mates in order to sustain the species and to be able to, breed as a unit. Because remember that if they're not the alpha or even the beta female, then they're not actually able to breed, or they're not being allowed the chance to breed. It'd be really nice if people stopped walking around in here, because the dogs eventually are going to fright and run away, but you know. There's going to be people, I'm afraid. And so you'll find that there is distribution. In fact, currently the dogs that are denning on Londolozi to our south is made up of two different packs. It's a dog from the Ingala pack, the one with the missing right ear. I'm not the Ingala pack. Sorry, the Toulon pack, and then the one with the missing right ear, and then the other one is from the Sabi Sands pack. And they've formed basically a new pack now, which has had those puppies. So there's a lot of movement between them. But obviously, as we were saying, it's an alpha female, alpha male society. So there's there's a male and a female that kind of dictate what the pack does. And most of what the pack does is in order to make those two have young ones and successfully raise them. So there's a lot that goes into just those two adults, which is very, very interesting. Like a cohesive unit of the entire pack to try and just keep those dogs alive is pretty amazing. Right, now apparently my mic is now being a handful. I can't catch a break this morning from these tech issues, but anyway, you guys are going to listen to me through the ambient mic, so it'll be a bit echoey. I do apologize about it. I don't know why it's being that way. We've been trying to fix it all morning, but it just seems this doesn't want to work at this stage. I think this dog is unsure where it wants to go. At this stage, one of its mates ran away, and the other two went towards Sydney's Dam. So with people standing there, I think it's a little bit unsure as to which side it wants to actually go. But if it just crosses, there we go, the other one's come back now. Hello, guys. Don't you just love that little trot that they have? Now, one of our ex-presenters, Brent, would have been so happy to have had these guys. All right, I'm going to try and keep up with them. They're going to run through towards Sydney's Dam. I'm not sure about our signal, but we're going to try and at least have something through here. Also, I apologize if there's any sort of noise from my mic while we drive. It's going to be a bit tricky. Fortunately, the road that used to be here is no longer there, so...
Sorry about that, everybody, but how amazing. Tristan managing to catch up with wild dogs. Very, very special indeed. It's not easy to stay with them. I'm actually on my way to see if I can go give them a hand, because wild dogs, it's quite nice to have two vehicles, because they just got no no inhibitions when it comes to running through the bushes and trying to keep up with them with the car. It's nowhere near as easy as it is with a leopard, which is sometimes very tricky on its own. I'm standing by Tristan. So this is Tristan. I'm going to ask him to come. Okay. Looks like they're going north. Buffelshoek. So they go through these properties on the Sabi Sands in such a quick period of time. It's quite incredible, in fact. We've followed them from one side to the other in minutes. And that's driving... Ooh, how are you going to manage here? That's driving pretty quickly. A little bit of overgrown bush over here. One of these bushes been... Elephants. Okay, so Tristan says there's 4 dogs. They're crossing straight through Djuma into Buffelshoek. They're quite amazing because they can go to Buffelshoek and then come back again, just like that. Obviously they're looking for food when they move like that. And if they don't have puppies, they can cover an enormous area and not go back to any area they previously were. Very nomadic, running around in a home range rather than a territory. But when they have a den site with an alpha female with puppies, then they do spend a lot more time in the immediate area, although they can cover an enormous distance in pursuit of food. We've had some incredible wild dog sightings in my time here. Unbelievable. Okay, well, we were trying to try our luck with Tundi, but we've had no luck. Haven't found any any fresh tracks. So maybe she did actually make a kill yesterday morning. When I left her yesterday morning, was on this side. We'll go and have a look and see if there's any tracks there. She would have gone to her cub at some stage, so there would be tracks in and out. That's what's lovely about these winter mornings. It starts off relatively fresh, but in almost no time the sun is up and warm. The gloves and jackets can come off. Those of you who've been on safari will know that winter mornings are spectacular, but they can start off a little bit chilly. Got no windscreens. One of the perks, though, we used to give our guests hot water bottles. And on a very cold morning, you will find me wrapped in a blanket with a hot water bottle. But it's nowhere near that cold yet. But someone I know who is a very big fan of hot water bottle, I've seen her use one many times before, Taylor McCurdy. She'd like to say good morning.
Well, good morning everybody from Pridelands. We've got some very exciting things happening in this open plain. We've got zebra chasing giraffe and giraffe chasing zebra. And finally, we've managed to find some signal, which is wonderful news. Isn't that great? Ha! Phew! We've also been running around doing all sorts of crazy things. My name is Taylor, and on camera with me today is Gert, and we're sitting on the wide open plains, which I'm not sure what it's called just yet. We've just got a map, so I still need to learn that. But it's quite entertaining. That little giraffe that we were watching just in the distance, it is a little giraffe, as I just said. And it doesn't seem to have any friends to play with, but the zebra are being obliging. Now, it looks like there's a little bit of a haze, and that's because it's all the dust. So they've been chasing one another around. What are you doing, little giraffe? Are you eating the smallest of bushes and trying to confuse people to make it look like you're grazing? Look at it. That long neck for nothing, and it wants to bend down and feed on the smallest of shrubs. Typical. We actually have seen that in East Africa quite a bit, where they feed on little shrubs and it kind of looks like they're grazing, but they don't. They just eat leaves, a variety of sorts. Are you going to chase your zebra friends again? You're motoring in that direction. You can also hear all the crowned lapwings making lots of noise. But this is just a really awesome example of how different species interact with one another. And it's not uncommon to see giraffe, zebra, impala. Maybe you could even see some rhinos or some other plains game together. Isn't that lovely? And the zebras are getting quite feisty with one another too. It's a nice big herd of zebra. Who have we got playing? We've got some, here we go, some stallions, some young boys. Getting a bit frisky with one another, sort of roughhousing a little bit. And that will probably go on for quite some time. Now I've just lost the call, but that's okay. I'm just going to carry on, and I will keep checking my mobile device to see if one of the directors messaged me. So I do apologize for that, but we just will enjoy the zebra as they play around. Now this is typical. This is how animals out in the wild show their dominance, is by wrestling with one another. And sorry, excuse that sound. And zebra, of course, have got very sharp teeth, so even though they are playing, they have to be quite careful. I don't know if any of you have ever been bitten by a horse or a pony, or maybe you've been bitten by a zebra. Ooh! And they're sort of angled in, not nice straight teeth, and that would hurt quite a bit. Never mind their nasty kick. Look, going right in for the nether regions there. Oh, goodness gracious. Look at that. So you can see that actually maybe not just testing the strength. Maybe this is a serious battle of stallions. Perhaps there's a young upstart that's trying to steal a few mares from the resident stallion that lives up on this open plain. Look how they can rear up. Very powerful back legs. And then they will chop with their front hooves too. And remember, zebras are unkept. They've no farriers out here to come and maintain their hooves. So again, depending on what substrates they run around on, they're probably quite jagged edges, and that would be quite painful too. Now, there's quite a few stallions here. And Arnold, yes, zebras are territorial in the sense that they'll have a group of mares, so female zebras, that they'll look after. And normally one zebra will stay within that same herd for quite some time. However, if the herd gets too big, it obviously becomes quite difficult for the males to maintain and to look after all the mares. And then, like what I think might be happening here, is you might get a male that comes through and tries to steal one or two mares and you know, just slowly bring them across to his side. So they will be very territorial over their sort of females. And it just seems to be the same two that are having a go at it. But there are some other males here that aren't too interested. I don't know my binoculars just yet, but I'm trying to figure out if there are some mares here. Being able to tell the difference between mares and stallions, it can be quite tricky because they look very similar. Just, of course, the stallions are producing lots of testosterone, so they typically have quite a thick neck, broad shoulders, and a lovely round rump. You can even hear them as they run along. Their hooves touching the ground. Sorry, I've just dropped the call again. There we go, I'm back in action. Also, that's not us in the distance, that's another zebra on its way down, releasing all that gas. Look at them going round and round, it's making me dizzy. Oh, kick to the face. It always just amazes me, these zebra, because they're about, maybe about 15 hands or so if you are, or you know anything about the equestrian sort of thing. So they're not quite a pony, they're not quite a horse, there's something in between. Linda, I kind of wake up like this with all this energy. I know you've said you wish that you had it. I'm very much a morning person and normally bounding from my seat. So this is what I'm like in the morning, kind of overbearing to most people. And then when it gets to about 7 p.m., I'd like to go to sleep. I've exhausted all my energy. Just as these boys are, I mean, running around like this, they really, really are using a lot of their energy up. And I did hear that there were lions calling not too far north from here. Now imagine you've been fighting all morning, because we don't really know how long this fight has been going on for. Imagine a lion now, or pride lions sneak on in, and they've exhausted all that saved up energy to try and, you know, run away. And this might even attract something like lions, because like I said, it's very loud. You can hear them running around. You hear them sort of squealing every now and then too. And definitely when they kick one another, you can hear that thud. Off they go. But they're not really running at full speed just yet. They both seem to be standing their ground a fair amount. There's quite a few males in there. I'm just looking and seeing the bits that make a boy a boy. But I think there's also quite a couple of females. That young giraffe that's now at the back is grown tired of the zebra games. A couple of other zebra wanting to join in. Oh, you see? Another two boys. This is so beautiful. There are just more and more zebra coming in, which is fantastic. I'm going to try and have a quick count while you just enjoy these zebra, just to see how many are here. I think there's maybe just shy of 20 zebra here. Yes, Danny, I suppose if you squint your eyes and you look at a zebra, it could remind you of a donkey. I think they're a lot prettier than donkeys, and they don't quite have those exceptionally long, elongated ears. Oh, goodness. Now the impala have started up, the rams. Honestly, these animals are really not helping themselves by making so much noise. They basically put a big red cross up in this area saying, oh, there's a lot of animals around here, and none of us are focusing on our surroundings. You can actually even hear, if you listen very carefully, when they bite one another. This is so exciting. Now they're probably going to head down towards the drainage areas, maybe to some water. Maybe they'll have a drink at Leopard Dam, who knows, for this afternoon show. There you go, now it's starting to calm down just a little bit. It's a pity we weren't here earlier to sort of see this zebra dynamic, if it was one herd or, you know, if it's two herds that are intermingling. For this area, that's quite big. I mean, average size herd of zebra, maybe with the stallion, you'd have 6 or 7 mares. Obviously, when you head up to East Africa and even up in Zambia, you can get exceptional herds. So I don't know if this is just one herd here, if there's maybe 2 or 3 smaller groups. And they've all just come to a common place to graze and decided to interact with one another. So horses, equines in general are quite social, but like I said, the stallion in charge of his herd is going to be very protective over the mares and won't tolerate any other males coming on through. Now, myself and Gert have been basking in the sun, as the zebra are, but there's another creature a little bit further north from where we are that likes to do the same thing.
So the meerkats are just making an appearance now, and the one that came out first is the alpha female. This is the one that we want to get a name for today. Kabelo, Bontle, or Mosadi. And these are all Tswana names, which is the local language here. And Jandra and I were both wrong again on which burrow system, or which hole they would actually exit from. So over time, I think we'll hopefully get our ducks in a row. Oh, she's still freezing cold there, look at that. But the others will be out shortly. So we were chatting with the meerkat habituate yesterday, and I mentioned it earlier again, is that this particular female has been known for actually bringing her pups above ground earlier than other groups do, and we're not sure of the reason for that, but typically 2 to 3 weeks, but they've actually seen her take pups out from above ground at about 4 days, which is super early. And like, oh, there's another one. No, absolutely. So basically, as the leader of this group, we really want to get a fixed name for her. And the Tswana language, being the local language here, we thought that would be really appropriate to use for that. So Mosadi means female, or it's like, we can't even say like a leader female, but it means female, which is it's a really beautiful name. And then Bontle means brave, which is a very so it means beautiful, which is a very apt name for this one. And then Kabelo means brave, which again super apt name. So either one of those. So it's Kabelo, Bontle, or Mosadi. And those are the hashtags that you can use on Twitter as well, along with Wild Earth. We decided on using local names rather than, in the local language, rather than an English name or something like that. It just feels a lot more appropriate. There's the Borough Maintenance. Look at that. Dig, dig, dig. He's actually throwing the sand. He's throwing the sand onto her back now. She's like, what are you doing? The sun's not quite on her yet. Rabbi, do they bark or do they call? They actually, what's in a name? We can call it whatever we like, but both terms would be correct for the sounds they make. Typically, what we would say, though, is if it's their normal communication, like their little between the group, we'd normally say that's like calling. If it's an alarm call, the alarm call, we'd normally say it's an alarm bark. If there's danger threatening in it. So she's just turned facing the sun, and we're just waiting for the sun to actually hit those burrows properly. But in the meantime, head over to Tristan and let's see what he's found on that side. Yeah, so we were just talking about coming back to the calls. If we say a bark is typically associated with an alarm call, especially when it's a imminent threat. But it's definitely not a bark what we traditionally think of as a dog barking. We may, over the time that we spend with them, if we're very lucky, we may actually hear them giving alarm calls if there's a direct threat. And also remember, the fact that we hear doesn't necessarily mean that there won't be any kind of predation attempt on them. We've had people sitting with these groups of meerkats before when African wildcats have actually snatched, run in, that have been hiding. Okay, so we're gonna head back to Tristan quickly. They've got a good sighting on that side.
Right, now we've managed to find a leopard. Hopefully we're going to have signal. It's unfortunately been a really big struggle this morning. Sitting with the dogs, we heard a leopard soar, and we came down and managed to spot what I think is Shadulu. Like I say, we've just gotten to the sighting, which is epic, at least, that we found it. It's a bumper morning. If it wasn't for signal, we would be having the most ridiculous morning. I mean, to have dogs, then sit with dogs and hear a leopard soar close by and manage to spot her has been absolutely amazing. And she's just lucky that she sat where she did. She sat right on top of this termite mound, and we just saw her head on the top of it. Otherwise, we would have been quite a struggle to find her. But generally, when leopards are sawing and making noise, they're quite easy to find. They're typically out in the open. Now, I said that we did have Hukamuri's tracks in this area, so I wonder if maybe she's sawing because she's picking up his scent, and maybe she's going to start coming into estrus cycle soon. At the end of the day, we're at that point now where Kara, her litter or cub that she's got, will be basically at the age where she's going to leave it and carry on. And so if she's coming into an estrus cycle, then we're going to start to see her actively calling, looking for a male. And we know that there's two different males that have been in this area in the last couple of weeks. So we've had Hukamuri, who's typically the male we would see here. And then we've had this other male from Buffel's Hook that's been around. So it definitely seems like there's a male presence, and maybe the male's scent is why she's calling, just to make sure that others kind of pick up the fact that she's here, and that she can then potentially start that kind of mating process. We don't know, of course, if she is in that situation yet, but it would be really, really cool if she does start mating. We're having an absolutely ridiculous last 10 days, aren't we? I mean, we've had so many of our leopards come through. That coupled with, dogs this morning. Like I say, we've had lions. It's just been insane. But she definitely looks like she's looking for something. The way that she's kind of up, down, certainly seems like there's something that's interesting her. I don't know whether it's because the dogs ran through and she heard them, or she smelt them and just was checking around to see if there's a kill for them, or if, like I say, she's picked up the scent of the boys. But generally a sawing leopard is a leopard attracting attention to itself, particularly in the females. Sorry, that's my head. She's walking past as she does. Oh, it's good to see you, girlfriend. A long time since I've spent time with this cat. She has been, not easy to find on Juma. But I think she spends a lot more time here than we even realize. And she's in and out a lot, which is pretty cool. Just got to keep finding her. This northern side, Dwarf tree, go. Looking like she wants to go. No, scent mark instead. She's going to rub her face, and you find that she's going to walk past and turn her and lift her tail and just spray on the tail and on the tree. And that will be a way of her, like I say, just spreading her scent. Now, if she's going into estrus, this is the way that she's going to get a male. She's going to walk around, she's going to vocalize, she's going to scent mark, she's going to make a lot of noise, and give a chemical trail for those boys to be able to follow them and find her. Alright, well, we're going to have to move, and we're going to lose signal when we move, because unfortunately we're on like the mounds now. So I do apologize if it breaks up. If we get a situation where it's lose a little bit of signal, I certainly hope that that's not going to be the case. Alright, now while I kind of follow and see if I can find her again, let's send you back across to Tswalu Kalahari and the meerkats.
There's some good borough maintenance going on here. You just see the dust kicking up over. You can't actually see the meerkat. But normally they'll go further and further and further and kick sand back, and then they actually start moving out to be able to kick it just over that, the borough mound over there. And these burrows don't go too deep, eh? You're looking probably a meter max, marginally deeper in some areas. But these small burrows, they don't need to go deeper. The sand's actually firm enough so it doesn't collapse too easily. If you're on the dune crest, we had a beautiful cheetah sighting yesterday that some of you joined us with, and that sand is very soft, so you won't normally get burrows there. Chris, these meerkats have been habituated over years and years and years. In fact, this particular group, what we call the Gossas, G-O-S-A, the Gossa group, and there's no particular meaning for that name, just unusual. It's actually named after one of the farms here. But this group that we're seeing here now, okay, and then hopefully the little pups that we're going to see coming out above ground, this has been going on now probably for 12 years that we've had successive people spending time with this particular group of meerkats, just continuing the habituation process. And so these are just like successive generations of meerkats that we're seeing here. So it's just fantastic. And the way we do that is you start off from a long distance where you locate a group. Normally driving along a road, you'll see a group in the distance, and then it's just literally a matter of patience and lots of time. And gradually they'll be accustomed to the presence of a vehicle on a road in the distance. If you can try and find the burrow system in the evenings when they go down, you can see, okay, there's a group of meerkats that have gone down there. and then you'll spend time on foot, but far away from the burrow itself. So they're not worried about you, and that could be 200 meters if necessary. There must be no kind of sign of alarm from the meerkats at your presence, and then slowly, over weeks, months, you slowly start moving a little bit closer, and that could be 5 meters at a time, 10 meters at a time. But eventually they'll start getting to the point where you're sitting like we are. I'm now 8-9 yards away from them, behind them. Gendre is even further. He's probably 10 yards away, 12 yards away from them. And importantly, we won't, now that they're up like this, we won't approach the meerkats. But if we sit still and they come towards us, then we'll just sit still or lie still. And you'll see they're super, super relaxed. And it takes time, eh? It takes a lot of time to do this, but look what you get. And so while Gendre and I are doing this, I think head over to And Beyond Pinda and see what lions they've got on that side.
Welcome back to And Beyond Pinda, everyone. So we decided to leave the 2 male lions and the 5 cubs to go in search of the 2 mothers that left them, and we managed to find them, as you can see up ahead, and it seems like they're on the hunt this morning. The mist literally just lifted 2 minutes ago, and very intelligently they used the mist to their advantage. So it was so thick that we couldn't see further than 30 or 40 meters. They were walking directly into the wind to be able to smell what's up ahead, so using their other senses to find prey. But unfortunately for them, the mist has just lifted, and so it's going to make it a little bit more tricky to hunt now, and that could be why they've just left the road. So traveling along the road during the mist, easy to move around. Now that the mist has lifted, any prey species in the area will easily be able to spot them. You will notice in this area that the grass is very yellow this time of the year, and so these 2 lionesses will be using that yellow grass and their tawny colored coats to their advantage while busy hunting. Alright, hold on everybody, we're going to have a few bumps over here. Let's follow them and see where they're going. So I can see that they're just over the ridge. And so the area that they're heading into now is an area that holds quite a lot of impala, zebra, wildebeest, and warthog. And this particular area, this particular pride of lions is a specialist in hunting warthogs. Now you'll actually notice that they're busy following a game path at the moment. And just like walking on the road, it's easy to walk along and they can travel quite quietly. They've now walked upon a game path that has been formed over many years of animals walking to and from a waterhole that's just up ahead. And I'm sure these 2 females have used this path many times. Alright, so while these lionesses are busy walking through the thick area, we're going to head over to Taylor, who has an elephant bull. You want to know where your caracal is?
Hello. Sorry, everybody. We just keep having a couple of tech issues. Look, we found a big elephant bull. I think they've just come from Leopard Dam. But this elephant bull is quite interesting because he's got a collar. So that's what's on top of his head. Can you see that big plastic thing up there? Now, he's not one of the big tuskers that often come through in this area. You'll see if he pops his head out. He's got relatively small tusks, but he's a large elephant. He's exceptionally tall. Now, it's been a very, very long time in sort of the greater Kruger area that they were collaring elephants. This happened ages and ages and ages ago, maybe almost 20 years ago now. And I know they started removing some of the collars, but some of the bulls still have them. So we could probably find out if this fella has a name and how old he is and which area he's come from. So if he does show himself, if you can take some screenshots, that'd be wonderful. And then remember to always hashtag Wild Earth on Twitter with all of your pictures, and then of course some of your questions too, but there's a variety of ways to ask us questions. But it would be nice to try and just figure out who this fella is. Keep tabs on him. Now, Sarah, you've said your day has just been made from this wonderful elephant. Good. I'm hoping to show you plenty more elephants because they like to hang around Leopard Dam. And there's something quite interesting. I'm wondering if I move forward, I want to show you this big elephant has got a little friend. Let's try it. Let's just give it a bash. We're going to see. We're breaking rules here. I like to live life on the edge, though. Londeka in final control is going to tell me if she loses us, though, so I apologize. I'm just... Right. Okay, I'm going to quickly show you this little elephant that he has picked up and is now following him around. He's got this little friend. Look at that. Here we go. Much smaller. Almost like a quarter of the size of that big elephant, which is quite funny, but this is quite typical to see. But fingers crossed that we find some more of these gentle giants. Off you go back to Djuma Private Game Reserve, where Tristan has got a leopard.
Hopefully you find some more gentle giants. We are loving our time as she do. She is calling a lot, which is really cool. Unfortunately, she just called right now and has stopped again, but her tracks are everywhere here. She's been up and down this road, obviously all morning and night, so I don't know what she's up to. Maybe she's actually, like I say, looking for a mate. Looks like she has a nice full tummy, so that's also a thing. Now, what was I going to say? I've tried to fix my microphone, so hopefully that's all sorted. But the other thing I wanted to discuss today is that as much as I've had a few tech problems, which happen, it's pretty amazing. At Pridelands, she had a dream last night that I was eaten by lions, which is very disconcerting, and she said that she was telling everybody and they all didn't believe her, so I'm quite glad to rather be alive, and hopefully it's not a sign of things to come. I certainly don't want to meet an end, a sticky end via the hand of a lion, for sure. Let's just try and catch up with her and see if we can... Sir? But, like I say, I hope it rather means that we're going to see lions, not that I'm going to be eaten by them. That will just be very, very, very It's been a whirlwind of emotions. To get heading into a better area, which is good. Now, while we try and follow her into better signal and better areas, let's send you across to Tswalu Kalahari.
Thanks for joining us again. We're really, really sorry. I see Tristan's really battling with signal on his side. But thanks for coming back to us and staying with us a little bit. As soon as Tristan's up and running again, we can head back there. So this female that's standing, that Gendre's got in frame now, this is the alpha female, the big one. And I mean big in the nicest sense. Sorry guys, there's a Tswalu that it's sitting right at the meerkats here. Now that tiny little bird sitting on top there is the smallest raptor we have here. That is called a Pygmy Falcon. a Pygmy Falcon. Now, this is really, really fun that it's up where we are because, and I'll show you the nest later, they actually nest inside the social weaver nest. They take those chambers over, but we'll get back to it. But so it's really cool because there's no nests that I'm aware of very close by to you. Anyway, back to the meerkats. And so what was really interesting, see, all the meerkats are looking in the direction that that raptor flew off in. I've never ever seen a Pygmy Falcon try catch a meerkat. They're just way too small in the first place. I've never even heard of anyone, and again I stand to correction, knowing about a Pygmy Falcon trying to catch a meerkat. And yet, every single one of these meerkats was aware of the presence of that Pygmy Falcon. They recognized its shape as a raptor, as a bird of prey, and they were still watching even after it flew off. That this alpha female, in fact, she's actually, you can't see the Pygmy Falcon now, but from where okay, it's just flown away, but she's watching that Pygmy Falcon the entire time. It's incredible. I mean, that's, so even though it's a species that's not necessarily a threat, they still understand the shape and form of a bird of prey, regardless of the size, and they'll keep an eye on it. Ella, exactly right. Tiny and fierce. So although maybe not a threat to meerkats, Pygmy Falcons are voracious raptors. There's a good word for the morning. And they'll take whatever they can within limits. So I think, sorry, my comm seems to be breaking up, so I apologize if you can't hear me, but I think let's head over. I think it's Tristan that we're going to head over to.
Well, that's exactly where Rukamura is. That's exactly what marking.
It's completely out of sight now. But these meerkats, I think that's like a little reminder to them. All right, yeah, we're out here in the mornings, and let's just keep our eyes open. Super vigilant, eh? Nothing goes undetected. Hopefully over the coming weeks, and we obviously, with our habituation, we want to be extremely careful not to put undue pressure on these groups, or actually any pressure on these groups. But hopefully over the coming weeks, we'll be able to start following them a little bit as they actually forage, and that will be super, super, super exciting. But we're not going to even attempt that until we know, what's happening with the pups. How many there are. There's lots of things. So we will do absolutely everything in our power that we are not compromising anything in any way in terms of these animals. Actually, she's grooming herself. Actually, looks like she's got something stuck on her. One of those little twiggy bits. You can't see it properly, but she's giving herself a nice groom there. And she's going to stretch. Come on, stretch. No. She might still. Oh, they are stunning little animals. Eh? And I think these. Well, we've determined that these three burrows, the one that she's at now, that's standing at now, and then the two that they were at originally, are all connected underground somehow. I mean, we don't know how far down or, you know, how many chambers there are or anything. But those 3 burrows are definitely connected. And so the pups will be in one of the chambers down there. And I'm guessing it was at that original burrow, that middle one that we were looking at. It's warming up nicely now. Anna Marie, wow, nice one. We do have baboon spiders at Tswalu. We've got a number of different species. A lot of them are very, very, very small baboon spiders. You know, traditionally you think of baboon spiders as these really big kind of tarantula, bird-eating spider kind of things. And we've got, I think, 2 species here like those. But then we've got a lot of tiny little baboon spiders as well. And meerkats will definitely eat them if they catch them, if they can find them. You, however, find that the males are free-ranging, but they normally come out at night. So during the day they'll be hiding under rocks, inside big logs, those kind of things. So probably not that easy for meerkats to get to. And then the females construct these really deep silk-lined burrows, and they're not frequently encountered. It's not a, you know, although they are here, they are not common. Certainly the large ones aren't common. So I think, although meerkats would eat them, I don't think it would be a key or important prey item for them in these areas. And she's still looking, that alpha female keeps on looking in the direction that that Pygmy Falcon flew off in. So she's doing a normal, you know, she's looking at me as like, I didn't do anything wrong. I was just talking about your vigilance. So you see now where she's looking now. She keeps looking where that Pygmy Falcon flew to. But while we see what evolves here, I think let's head over back to our colleagues in the Lowveld and their lion sighting.
Welcome back, everybody, and we've been following these 2 females now for quite some time, and it seems like they've just come down to a little bit of a mud wallow, which is very strange because they just walked past a beautiful dam with nice, well, clean water. And 2 minutes ago, this lioness was trying to find a way to get to the middle of this mud wallow, to what little bit of water is left in the middle. Now, I suspect that they've come here because they know that this wallow would attract animals like warthogs, who, as the day starts to heat up, they're going to come and wallow in this area. And maybe they're hoping to catch an unsuspected warthog in this area. And you'll see that this female's busy just taking this opportunity to rest. So since we found the cubs this morning, that was about an hour and a half ago, they've been on the move constantly. And so just taking the opportunity to get a bit of energy back, because they need to make sure that if they do start to hunt, and if they're going to chase something, they need to have all the energy that they can have. And so it is quite typical of these 2 females that the other female does tend to lead the way. And so this one generally just follows from behind. And you'll see as they walk, they put their nose down to the ground. Now they're busy smelling the grass to see if there's any fresh scent of an impala, warthog, inyala. It is quite a thick area around here, so we do expect to find some inyala here. There's some open areas behind us where the impalas would have slept. And like I said, there's a wallow over here and a waterhole behind us. And so lots of animals are going to start teeming down to either this mud wallow to wallow or down towards the large waterhole behind us. They're busy scent marking at the moment, so even though these 2 females are out on the hunt, they will take the opportunity to put their scent all over the area just to claim this territory and make sure that no other prides of lions decide to come and sneak into the area. But so, Black Cat, you are correct. These lions do look very healthy, And fortunately for the Pinde prides, we have very healthy populations of warthogs, Inyala, wildebeest, impala, zebra. So there's lots of opportunity for them to hunt. And these prides of lions typically make 2 or 3 kills a week. And even though they are a small pride, like you mentioned, with only 3 adult females and 2 adult males, they are able to hunt quite successfully. And the advantage that they have is because they're not a large pride, they don't have to always try to take down large prey like wildebeest and zebra. They can also then focus on some of the smaller prey species like warthogs, inyala, and impala. And the area that they're going into now, like I mentioned earlier, I do suspect that they're looking for some inyala here. Inyala being browsers, meaning that they eat leaves. They will be in these denser areas to eat on the leaves. And the advantage that these lions are going to have is that it's a great area for them to be able to hunt in, because there's lots of camouflage and places to hide and stalk. Let's see where they're going. They are using the road for now. And I hope that they don't leave the road anytime soon, because if they do leave the road, it is going to be just too thick for us to be able to follow them. But you can see, not in a major rush, taking their time. Well busy walking around using all their senses, hearing, smell, hearing. So Pablo, this pride is known as the Biola Pride. And the pride consists of 3 adult females, 5 cubs, and 2 adult males. Now the coalition of males for this pride is also known as the Biola males. Ooh, wow, how amazing is that? You can see it's actually not that cold, but these lions are overheating, and while they're breathing, you can actually see that mist coming out of their mouth. And it's fantastic that the sun is on the other side of those lions, because it's allowing us to be able to see that breath of air as they breathe out. And you could see how constantly she's busy breathing. Have a look at that. So they are tired. They have used lots of energy while walking around this morning, but they do look like they are in certain need for a meal. We're actually quite far away from the cubs at the moment. We are quite far away from the rest of the pride, probably about 4 or 5 kilometers away. So if they do manage to make a kill, I'd imagine one of these females is going to have to remain behind with whatever they kill, while the other female heads off to the area where they left the 5 youngsters. They're not going to be over concerned about bringing the 2 males to the carcass. Their priority at the moment is to get the cubs up and healthy to a good age where the males will be kicked out, and so they'll probably head off and go fetch those 5 youngsters. Now, if both of these females had to go off and leave the carcass behind, that would leave an opportunity for leopards, hyenas, and even a cheetah to come in and feed on the carcass. This area that we're going through at the moment, I did mention earlier, is quite a dense area, and we're surrounded by hills, and so this is your very typical leopard area for Pinde. And so if they were to leave, I would imagine they do stand quite a high chance of losing that carcass to a leopard, because what would happen, although the leopards may be not right here, if these lions do manage to take down something like a warthog or a squeal, as I'm sure most of you have heard, because in the last week we've been able to see prides of lions killing 2 warthogs, that would attract the attention of those leopards. And the leopards would sit off for a couple 100 meters, watch the lions, and if both were to leave, they would quickly come in, steal the carcass, drag it off, and put it up in a high tree. Now, they'd have to put that carcass up quite high, because as I'm sure you saw yesterday with Damon, these lions are very capable of climbing trees. This particular pride, in fact, that we're busy watching at the moment, the Biola Pride, is renowned for climbing trees. Often in the afternoon, we don't see them in trees in the morning very often, but often in the warmer afternoons, they like to climb into some of the smaller marula trees that we have in this part of the reserve. I wonder what she had the scent of there. You could see she was smelling in the grass. Maybe picked up the scent of an antelope that has walked by. So, Gani, you're asking, is there anything different between these lions compared to the lions in other reserves? There is not. So it is the same species of lions that we would have at Ngala and at Djuma. I guess one of the big differences for the Pride is just that they're a smaller Pride. The Birmingham Pride is a much larger Pride than the Biola Pride, and the prides of lions that they have in Djuma are also quite large. So one of the differences between the prides would be because the prides in those areas are much larger, they will typically try hunt larger prey like buffalo, sometimes giraffe, where in Phinda you'll very seldom ever see a lion hunt a buffalo. It's a bit of risk versus reward. Yes, the reward of taking down a buffalo would be great for a small pride because they could feed for 5-6 days even, but the risk of having an injury while hunting those buffaloes is not worth that reward. So a smaller pride like this would rather just settle with warthogs, impala, wildebeest. That being said, they do kill giraffe, more so when the males are with them. All three prides that we have here on Phinda have been known to take down medium to young giraffe. And unfortunately for the giraffe this year, they've taken a bit of a hammering. There's a record of a clan of hyenas killing giraffe this year. 5 months ago, we saw the 2 south male cheetah kill a giraffe, and this pride of lions and the males have also been able to take down a few giraffe. Alright, so we're going to stick with these females. They are heading into an area now where hopefully we'll find some prey species. But while we stick with them, we're going to head over to Dylan at Tswalu to see what the meerkat's up to.
So it seems like Chandra and myself are going to be completely wrong in the direction this group goes. That little alpha female has moved off onto one of the burrows in a completely northerly point, which is 180 degrees away from where they went foraging yesterday. It's not to say that they will move off in that direction, but I'm guessing there's probably quite a strong likelihood of that. Alternatively, perhaps she's just still aware of that little Pygmy Falcon that came in earlier, and she just moved up to that burrow. It's a bit of a higher vantage point, marginally closer, maybe just trying to keep an eye out in that direction for any potential threat. But that's just me hypothesizing that, I've got these guys are still very relaxed, sunning themselves here. There's hardly a breath of wind this morning, just a very, very, very light breeze, maybe 1 or 2 knots at best. So Emily, we can tell it's a matriarch. You can see she's actually been suckling, so you can actually see on the nipples on the front that she has been suckling, and she's the only adult female in this group. So in a group like this, it's pretty easy because it's a very small group. There's 6 individuals, and again, we don't know how many pups there are. So I mean, that number could almost double overnight. It can become a little bit more challenging in larger groups. If you've got groups of 15, 20, they've even been recorded up to 50 meerkats. I think the record is 52, which is, we've never seen a group that size on Tswalu. Now, within a group like that, you'll still have that hierarchy. You'll still have the alpha male and female. But, of course, it becomes a whole lot more difficult for her to keep control of all the others in that group. And then you actually can get other females within the group breeding. She doesn't like it. And I know it sounds really harsh and really gruesome, but you actually get infanticide taking place. So sometimes if the alpha female finds out, she'll try to prevent the other females from breeding. But occasionally they get it right and they'll have pups, and then sometimes she'll actually try kill those pups. So it's quite a harsh thing. But when you look at it in terms of the group survival strategy, these animals forage communally, they den communally, they do guard duty communally. So it just gives her pups the absolute best chance of survival if they are all contributing towards looking after her pups on every level, rather than kind of diluting it and a whole lot of females having pups and the all the food being split up between them and vigilance and that. So there's a lot of advantages to her being quite harsh like that. She had a good stretch there, and she's coming back. So I think maybe my second guess there might have been correct, that she just went up there to actually get a bit of a better vantage point, as up slightly higher. Sherbet, it's not just you. I think to me, they do look like they're smiling. Jandra and I were actually commenting on that just the other day, just saying, geez, it looks like they've got these permanent grins on their face. Okay, so she's come back to the burrow now that she was at yesterday. But let's see what these other little ones do. I think if she starts doing burrow maintenance here, they're going to actually move over to her. So we'll keep the camera on those two for now and see if they I'm just going to shuffle some completely out the way here. We're going to try get a better angle on this alpha female again. Noel, their main job, I don't think meerkats have a main job. I think they are a functioning part of an ecosystem, and within their social structure and their ecology, in other words, how they operate within the environment, how they interact with the environment in terms of other animals and other species, plants and animals, and the physical environment that they're in, the sand, the dead trees, everything. In order to survive, they've got to do a whole lot of different things. They've got to fulfill a whole lot of different roles in order to be able to survive in these environments. And one of those is burrow maintenance. Now, burrow maintenance is an absolutely crucial part of what they do. If they don't maintain these burrows, when danger threatens, then they're not going to have a well-maintained burrow that they can actually escape into to avoid predation. But at the same time, if they don't forage properly, they don't get enough food. They might get enough food just for themselves, but they don't get enough food to be able to feed the youngsters. If they don't do sentry duty properly, they could probably get by most of the time, but it'll catch up with them at some point in terms of being grabbed by an eagle or attacked by a snake or caracal. So every single one of these functions, I think, is equally important, but just in slightly different measures. I think in the meantime, head over to Taylor and see what she's got on that side.
Ask for a link. That's so cool. Well, we're very excited to have not just one warthog, but two warthogs. But the funny thing about them is the oxpeckers that have flown on down from a distance and sort of beelined and landed right on top of them. So there's quite a few oxpeckers here. I think it is one family though. And you'll see the other warthog that is down on its knees and eating some grass has got some youngsters, some juvenile red-billed oxpeckers on them. So I think it's a set of parents, so a male and a female with their juveniles. So the ones with the red beaks are the adults, and then you'll see the juveniles, the one on the snout and the one on the rear end, have got black beaks, and they haven't got that yellow ring around their eye just yet. So they're still young. They're very much still learning, I suppose, the process of being an oxpecker. Like that one down at the feet. No, you're not supposed to stand on the ground. Yes. You've got specially designed feet to be able to cling on. Still getting used to when an animal shakes, especially when you're that small and you haven't got that much surface area to hold on. But it's a woolly, very hairy warthog. It has been quite chilly here at Pridelands. I mean, I've literally got every piece of eco training uniform that I could wear. It's been that cold in the mornings. So I think the warthogs too are thickening their coats in preparation, but they're all starting to look a little bit thin already, which is a bit sad. Now, I did hear somebody over the radio comms this morning talking about how the grass is so yellow at this time of the year, and it doesn't have very much nutrition. Sorry, I do apologize for that. While I'm driving around, I normally leave a mobile device on loud so I can hear when I get a notification, but I've turned it off now. But this is lovely. So this is a young boar, the one that we're looking at, and you can tell because of the really large warts that it has on its face, and you can see that it's got two pairs. One just below the eyes, and I know a lot of you know how to sex warthogs, but we've got so many new people jumping on all the time, which is very exciting. And then there was also a female around here. Now, we were actually following some leopard tracks in this direction. We had one soaring around the eco training camp this morning, but Tristan, of course, has been following a leopard all morning.
Well, not all morning, but very, very close to it. It's been, like I say, a chaotic morning for us, you know. It started off very relaxing with the mist and slow sunrise and a slow awakening of the bush, and then just went into a chaotic spin from there with dogs running around and then Shidulu calling. And we've now finally gotten to a point where Shidulu's just slowed right down, and it looks like she's starting to groom herself now and prep herself for potentially having a bit of a rest, although there is some impalas nearby. Normally, though, when you see a leopard starting to groom like this, it's indicative of the fact that it's going to be settling for the day. So it's going to find itself a nice shady spot. She's in a really nice hidden area here. It's lots and lots of vegetation around her. As you can see, we don't have a very good view of her, but she's tucked herself in this little ring of quarries, which is, like I say, shady, but also really helps with her camouflage. And the area that we're in has a lot of impalas that move around this area. So it seems like a good place for her to kind of spend the day. But we know with leopards, they can be busy creatures, particularly these females. Sometimes they don't lie down for long if they don't have kills. So maybe she's just grooming herself, getting herself ready to go again. I'm not sure. If she starts to yawn, then it might be indicative that she's going to move. I'm hoping that she's going to decide just to stay settled and have a little bit of a sleep in this area, and that we'll have a chance of spending some time with her this afternoon again, because she seems like she was on a serious mission this morning. She was really busy, and lots of calling and scent marking, and like I say, that can often be an indication either that she's coming across a female that's in her territory, which I don't think is the case given she's not salivating, but it could be that she's starting to call males in order to start mating. She's at that point now where she should be coming into an estrus cycle again. Her cub, like I say, is old enough to be on its own, and that might mean that she starts to try and have her next litter. Now, hopefully, she'll mate with Hukumuri and produce another litter. But like I say, there is another male that we've seen right where we are now, so she could mate with him too. But I don't think she'll want to spend too much time with that male, because most of his territory seems to be lying to the north, and she doesn't spend much time up there at all. She spends most of her time to the west where Hukumuri is. So I suspect that that's what she'll do. Right, now apparently we're still using the ambient mic, so you can't hear me very clearly, so now I need to turn to face the microphone so that you can hear me better. Like I said, I do apologize. I don't know what's going on with the gremlins this morning. They're on a full-scale attack on my particular part. So we'll try and vanquish them by this afternoon. Annie Perk, yes, she is actually. She is a bulkier leopard than Thandi, and a little bit heavier set. I find her to be quite a large individual. Like I say, when we first spotted her this morning, her head was up on a mound, and she actually looked a little bit like a young male from far. She was a long way away, but she is bigger than Thandi. But like the thing is with Thandi is, I think what Thandi makes up for with her lack of size is her aggression. She's a seriously aggressive captain. She wants to be. Funny enough, the two of them have actually fought before. So Shidulu and Thandi once had an altercation
not too far from here. And it seemed like Shadulu dominated Tundi, actually. Tundi came away with a gash on her. And the guys that saw it, we didn't actually see it. It was just after we had finished our drive. And the guys that saw it said that, Shadulu dominated Tundi a little bit. Are you going to get up and move, girl, or are you just going to reposition? So nice to see her again. Like I say, it has been a long time since I've seen her. I think the last time I saw her was in June of last year. So, it's almost a year since I saw Shadulu last. So I'm really happy that we managed to find her this morning. And I didn't expect it to be her. To be honest, when I heard the calling, I thought it might be Hukumuri, because, like I say, we were following his tracks when we bumped into the dogs, and his tracks were really fresh on top of civets and hyenas from last night. And so I thought maybe he had followed the dogs back and he was just sawing, marking his kind of area, or if it was potentially that other male. I didn't expect it to be her, but I'm really glad that it is. It's been a long time, and we've driven this kind of western area a lot over the course of the last few months. But listen to the helmet strikes. Helmet strikes are upset with her, so that's their little alarm call. Beak, chattering what they do. Almost sounds a little bit like a taser when somebody kind of was shocking something. It's a cool sound that they make. What was I saying? I was saying we've spent a lot of time on this western boundary looking for her, and she's eluded us once or twice by minutes. So it's good to finally catch up with her. And she's really kind of one of the ones that I wanted to see when I came back for this stint now. And really the list is now gotten to the point where there's not much left on it in terms of the animals that I wanted to see being back. It's literally just Tingana and her daughter Kara that I'm really kind of wanting to see. And then, Sibui's cubs would be nice, but it's not the ones that we see regularly. But Tingana is probably the top of the list now. I'd love to catch up with him. And then followed by Kara and Mulawati, and the rest we've basically covered. And we've seen all of our lion prides, which has been nice. We've seen dogs, we've seen all the other leopards. So it's been a really good, particularly the last 10 days. We've had a crazy run of it. It's been chaos, which is really good. All right, so we're going to sit here with Shadulu. I want to see if she settles for the day. I'm hoping that she does. Like I say, if she does, we can come and spend some time with her this afternoon. And while we sit with her, let's send you back across to Anbi and Ngala, see how they're getting on for the morning.
Still nothing happening on our side. We have seen 3 elephants, 2 wildebeest, and quite a few impala this morning. The elephants were far away in the distance, even on super zoom through OD's camera. It was a little bit difficult to frame in, so we decided to rather just drive past. Where we are now is back in the center of the reserve, quite a few kilometers north of the Timavati River. But yeah, so we've come out of the south again and decided to come more in this direction. But no tracks of any lions, any leopard. Okay, we're gonna send you back to Steve, who's doing exactly what I'm doing on Juma.
Well, we found tracks, Tristan and everybody, of Tundi and her little cub, and we've been trying to follow up on them, but they went into quite a dense area, so we've left it for now. I moved a kilometer or so away from where she was last night, but we found the track coming out of the area. First it was just Tundi's track, and then the little leopard cub track. Now, there's something quite remarkable about seeing a leopard cub track when they're following mum. It makes me very excited, actually. I really do like it. But there we have got an African hawk eagle. There's a pair that nested just around the corner here the last couple of years, and I believe they've been seen building their nest again. They are a very, very monogamous pair. All large raptors are, but this pair is quite unique in their behavior. Black eagles, or the Varro's eagle, they hunt in a similar fashion. You know, we get this arms race between prey and predator, and many of the prey animals have become incredibly camouflaged, or have sentries, or have all sorts of ways of avoiding predation. And how does a predator improve its hunting ability? Well, what the hawk eagle's done is it's jumped a step in evolution, and it's decided to hunt as a pair. And hunting as two is obviously far better than hunting as one. They're much more successful. And so what happens, and we saw those francolins earlier, guinea fowl and francolins, ground nesting birds like that, are the favorite type of food source for these hawk eagles. And one will fly around and frighten all the birds on the ground, and the second one will come in very stealthily and grab one. And then they'll obviously share that prey amongst themselves, and obviously also share it with the nest or the brood. Now, I don't know if this track is going to be very visible, but I've put my little leather man next to it. Darby, how's that? There is a leopard track right here. I think I might actually have it upside down. No, I don't. There's the toes, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the back padded. Not very clear, not very easy to see, but Tundi's track is almost the same size as that knife. So the difference is quite remarkable. You can confuse a leopard track with a civet track sometimes if you don't look closely enough. But there was Tundi's track, little cub track, and they've gone into a dense vegetated area. So I'm going to leave them for now. I'm not going to be walking in there, that's for sure. That is not a good thing to do. But we're going to make our way up towards Buffelshoek Dam. We had some lions calling while we were tracking Tundi. I think they might be in the north, but they might even be close to the watering hole. So go and have a little look. Go and stop for a little coffee break and say hello to the hippos. Dave hasn't seen the family of hippos that are in Buffelshoek at the moment. Oh, hello. I was wondering what those impalas were looking at, and it is a spotted hyena. The impalas weren't alarm calling, they were just looking around. And they're not too bothered with hyenas here. Who is this? I don't know. Looks like one of our boys. He's going to cross right in front of us. He's heading straight to Torchwood. If he goes on there, crosses this junction, walks straight across the road, he's going to Torchwood. Or she. Some of our viewers would be able to tell us immediately who it is, but it definitely looks like one of the boys in the Djuma clan. It's not on Tsaka, that's for sure, because he's got a big welt like this on his bottom from probably being repeatedly bitten. Let's follow for a little bit. Why don't we? Maybe we can get an ID. Hello, Mania Age 10. You want to know if hyena's poop has particles of bones? Well, they actually bite and chew the bones up quite well. And then, yes, indeed, the body is able to, or the stomach is able to digest the bones. And the bones come out as a sort of paste. You don't really see the bone particles in the dung. You can see bones and chunks of bone in lion scat as well as in lion vomit. Lions and leopards aren't able to digest the bone, whereas hyena stomachs are. They've got powerful enough jaws to break the bone, and then their stomach enzymes and acids are able to digest that bone. And when they poo, it looks green. And after about 12 hours, or maybe 8-9 hours, it turns white. And that is from the calcium in the bone, or in the poo, because hyenas, that's where they fitted in initially in the landscape. Very, very long time ago in Asia and in Europe, before it was even named as continents. The hyenas came along the landscape, and there were organisms known as saber-toothed tigers that could kill animals but could never really consume the entire thing. So hyena, that was probably something very different before, moved into a niche, which is sort of an area within the ecosystem that it specializes in, and it was able to pick up and consume bones that other animals left on the landscape. Inside the bone is bone marrow, which is very nutrient rich, got lots and lots of minerals, and that's why and how the hyenas have evolved. Their very powerful jaw and their very, very strong, almost indestructible teeth. So that's why a lot of people say hyenas are scavengers, because that is how they initially began their cycle of evolution. The brown hyena, cousin to the spotted hyena, is exclusively a scavenger, but the spotted hyena in most parts of Africa is actually a very, very efficient hunter. They hunt similarly to wild dogs. There's a few different strategies there, and many times you'll come across lions and be like, oh, lions on a kill and hyenas on the periphery. Has he gone in? Lions on the periphery, and you think, look at these scavengers. Jules, I have a hyena omission. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. Oh, on a mission. Yes, indeed. Yeah, that hyena is just waddling along. A hyena on a mission is running. Probably going to go find somewhere nice to rest for the day. But often you find lions on a kill and hyenas on the periphery, and you think, oh, these hyenas are such scavengers. But the amount of times I've seen lions steal kills from hyena is enormous. Especially male lions. There's no bigger scavenger in the African wilderness than a male lion. They steal from everybody. Everybody. When you're the biggest, you take what you want. That is how it works in the animal kingdom. Okay, so we're on our eastern boundary with Torchwood. It's also another route up to Buffelshoek. We just deviated slightly, but it's okay. We'll head up there this way. If lions were calling and they were on the move, this is an area that we could potentially find their tracks moving in and around. The Torchwood Pride spent a lot of time here. Talamati's there. It was definitely more than one lion calling, which makes me feel like it was a pride. I find it very difficult to tell a male versus a female unless it's just on its own. I don't think it's very easy to differentiate it between male and female lion calling. There's a decibel change, but for our ears, not so easy. Okay, well, we're going to send you back over to Tswalu Kalahari, who's found some monkeys.
So we had some dwarf monkeys here. They crossed the road, and so they often, that's why we stopped here to look at the hornbill, because often you'll find the hornbill follow where the mongoose are, because when the mongoose run through the grass like this, they frighten up little insects, grasshoppers, locusts, things like that, and then the mongoose will take advantage of this and actually eat that. Sorry, not the mongoose, the hornbills take advantage of all the insects flying up, while the mongoose run through the grass. And of course, the hornbills, what they do is they warn the mongoose about any aerial predators. They're quite fun to watch. So I think if we follow the hornbills, we would know where the dwarf mongoose are. Of course, in this long grass, you won't see something as small as a dwarf mongoose. They are tiny, tiny, tiny. Only weighing about 300 grams. Go ahead. It's Pete on the radio. Copy, thanks Pete. So what they're doing, they had, it sounded like lions earlier, sounds like they are following that. So we're gonna keep going. I think we're in a bad signal area again, but it should pick up soon. There's a bit of a dip here and we go higher up. I mean, the elevation change on Impala is really not something or anything drastic. I think it goes from maybe 100, 160 to about 240 mostly, so very, very small. Well, we are still going around. We're going to send you Tristan. And Lulu.
Oh, I'll still with Shadulu. At the moment she's, starting to settle in for the day. She's become quite sleepy. Every now and then she pops her head up, but for the most part is pretty happy to have a nice nap. And I'm sure she would be in the shade. In the sun, it is very warm already this morning, much warmer than it has been in the last couple of days. So she's got a really, really nice spot at the moment while we are being baked. So typical leopard to find the only little bit of shade around. But before we kind of talk more about Shadulu, I actually wanted to talk about the dogs. Earlier I said that they looked like they could be part of the Investec pack because they were kind of moving towards Sydney's Dam, and we've been seeing the Investec pack in that area a lot. Now, I actually don't know if they are. Somebody's going to have to just double check this for me and see if they can find some sort of ID shots. And the reason why is because when we actually followed the dogs through to Sydney's Dam, they were running up and down, scent marking, sniffing, kind of looking around, and that's behavior of dogs that don't know other dogs that have been in that area. Now, we know the Investec breakaways have been around that section lately, and the way that they were behaving is that they're from a different pack altogether. We then, when we were with Shadulu, could hear them who calling. So the very eerie sound that wild dogs make, they were calling. Now, dogs that are part of the same pack very seldom will who call like that unless they are separated out. And if you think that the dogs were seen this morning running north from Jacana, I suspect that that's one pack and this pack that we saw is another. So which dogs these are, I'm not 100% sure. They could come from the Investecs or the Sands pack at one point. So I know the Sands pack has been a little bit kind of all over the place, so maybe it's them. I'm really not sure. I thought initially it was the Investec pack because of the direction of travel. They were just heading straight up into the Manuleti, so the Investecs would hang around there. But that behavior later of who calling and scent marking is indicative of dogs that don't know other dogs that have been in the area, and they're trying to mark over the top of it, and they're trying to call to try and see who these other dogs are and establish what's going on. So I'm pretty sure somebody out there, I know James Richard, you're very good with the dogs, maybe you can let us know who they are. I know that James keeps a nice sort of ID kit for all of them, and pretty sure he'll be able to come up with an ID for who those dogs are. But like I say, my guess is either then the Investecs or the Sands pack would be my guess. So Chris, you're asking what is Shadulu's lineage? Chris obviously sponsored the drive today, which is very, very kind of you, Chris, and it's always appreciated. And so the lineage for Shadulu is not part of the Karula lineage. She's not related to Tundi or to Hosanna or any of those. She comes from a female called the Ingrid Dam female. Ingrid Dam is a leopard that occurs on the western boundary of an area that's known as Marthley, which is Londolosi's Traverse. Okay then, girl. And to bed we go. All right. Are you just confirming the fact that we're getting your family tree right? So Ingrid Dam female, oh, look at this. Look at that, she's being all cute and kitten-like. But yeah, she comes from the Ingrid Dam female. Ingrid Dam is generally on the western edge of the northern traverse of Londolozi. I know it's complicated. And the eastern edge of the northern traverse of Singita, and then a little bit into the traverse areas of Elephant Plain, Simambili, those kind of places on an area called Arathusa Private. So that's her mother. Her father is believed to be Anderson, as far as I know. I'm not sure if they've done the DNA samples to confirm, but that's the thought. And then she moved into this area. We first started to see her in 2004 end of 2015, beginning of 2016. And it was quite funny. It's an interesting thing. You see her now, and she's very relaxed and very chilled. When she first started coming, she wasn't that relaxed because she didn't get a lot of exposure because of where she was. She didn't see a lot of vehicles. That northern sector of Singita and Londolozi hasn't got a huge amount of traverse. There's only a few vehicles that drive around in there because it's north of the river, and there's certain rules in place there. But what is interesting with her is when she first arrived, she had a particular aversion for green vehicles. She hated green cars. It was unbelievable because we obviously at Simbambili had green vehicles. Elephant Plains and Arathusa had beige vehicles, and somebody else had a green vehicle. It was one of the landowners. And every time a green vehicle would go near her, for some reason, she would run away. And she just was a little bit more skittish. If it was a beige vehicle, she wasn't quite as relaxed as she is now, but she would be a lot happier than green vehicles, which is super weird, given that they don't have great color vision. So it must be something to do with the darkness versus the light. Maybe she just had a bad experience with a green car at one point, or a dark-colored car. And that's why she was that way as a cub. But as she's grown up, obviously she's been in this area now. She's been tracked a lot, spent a lot of time with her, and she's now one of the most habituated cats we have. She's absolutely a phenomenal little female. She's not little either, she's a big female. And so spending time with her is just so cool. All right, she was an absolute treat in giving us a sword. Looks like she's going to have a little nap now with that last bit of effort, but it sounds like Steve has found some animals on our far eastern boundary that often like to have a nap too.
Thanks, Tristan. We have indeed found a herd of buffalo. Shortly after we left you there, we found this herd just on the Djuma side. They've come from probably the north by the direction that they're moving. It's possible they've even already come from Buffelshoek Dam. Buffalo have got 2 peaks of drinking. They'll drink generally twice a day, in the earliest sort of morning and at dusk, with bouts of feeding in and around those drinking times, and then midday, generally a very nice long nap in the shade. Always promising, because we heard those lions. We're heading up to follow up on the lions, and then we found buffalo. And while we know lion like to follow herds of buffalo, it is one of their favorite sources of food. It's a decent herd. It's hard to say exactly how many there are. There's at least more than 30 from what we can see, but they do melt into the vegetation quite well. There we go, a little youngster having a suckle. It's a typical buffalo behavior. They suckle between the back legs of mum. You don't ever see them trying to come from any other angle. It's always from the back. A very difficult place to stand if mum decides to relieve herself, which I've seen before. Like a little pat on the head. These bulk grazers are very important for the ecosystem. Buffaloes move around in a herd, generally led by a matriarchal society of females. And they move from water, as I said, twice a day. And they sort of move away from that water, either from one point to another, or they move in big sort of flower-like petal sorts of semicircles to and from, trying not to utilize the same area again, moving in areas where the vegetation is long, sufficient grass to support the herd. In the drought conditions, buffalo herds get decimated by disease and by lions and by lack of nutrients. And after good rains, we see really good success in the buffalo herds. A little bit of argy-bargy going on here. I was discussing yesterday about horns and non-horns in male and female antelope, and females with horns have them designed for defending youngsters, because the strategy of females with horns is that they need to run. They can't essentially hide away. They need to run from predators. And Mum, that's a big female there. She looks like she's a bit delayed in her pregnancy, Darby? Talking about pregnancy, most of the buffaloes will drop their calves directly in summer when the vegetation is at its best. So for her to be having a late calf is a serious issue, because the calves all blend in together, and any individual that's younger than the rest becomes a prime candidate for predation. Frick, you say the calves are so cute. They are very cute. Very, very cute indeed, as they always are very inquisitive and stare us down. Almost seems like this herd is probably going to be coming to a rest period shortly, feeling the sun beating down on our heads. Don't forget, everybody, if you have the time or the inclination, please feel free to support us so that we can keep bringing you wonderful images of buffaloes and leopards and lions to your living room. Just visit the link below, all the information you need. It's a very important bulk grazers, buffalo. They munch the grass down, they turn the soil over with their hooves, and they deposit enormous amount of dung. Big dung beetles and flies thrive on buffalo dung. We've noticed our leopards follow buffalo and love rolling in and licking the dung as well, which is loaded with bacteria, microorganisms. No doubt it's a bit of a sort of probiotic for their gut, help them with digestion. But that sort of semicircular motion away into water, and that constant revisiting area, or not revisiting areas, allowing them to rest, allows for enormous amounts of nutrient recycling, which is essential for many of the systems and processes that operate here in the savannah. Okay, well, lions are the order of the day most of the time. Let's go over to Ambient Pinder and see if they've got any of those.
Most certainly, Steve. Lions are generally the order of the day, but today we have been very fortunate to come and find this big bull rhino. So we left those two lionesses earlier. They just settled down in the shade, and we came into these open grasslands of Pinder to look for either cheetah or rhino, and we have come in luck. Now, some of you might be wondering, why are you filming this rhino? Because at Ngala and Djuma, they do not film rhino. Well, for those who have been watching Wild Earth for many years, you'll remember that in the Mara we would film rhinos there, because they felt that the rhinos there are safe, and that filming them would make no difference to their or to them becoming poached. And here at Ambient Pinder Private Game Reserve, we have the exact same stance. Now, you might not be able to see from this distance, but you'll notice that this rhino is lacking a long horn. So on Ambient Pinder Private Game Reserve, we have dehorned all of our rhinos. Now, these rhinos are particularly safe for three main reasons. One, we have an incredible relationship with the communities that surround the reserve, and so they do not come into our reserves to poach, and in fact they will actually inform us if they hear of anyone that is thinking of coming onto the reserve. Number two, we've got a very good anti-poaching team. But third, and probably most importantly, we have removed the horns of all of our rhinos. Now, by removing the horns of these rhinos, we've made them less valuable to the poachers. For them to come onto this reserve and to try and get the horn of a rhino that hardly has any horn is not worth their while, and therefore the risk of coming onto this reserve would be too high. And so it's a bit of a risk versus reward. And so because of this, we deem our rhinos to be extremely safe. And for quite a few years now, we have had the stance that we will film rhinos, we will take photos of rhinos, and we will allow our guests to do so. This is not something new that we've just all of a sudden decided because we are filming Wild Earth here on Pinder. It is a stance that we've taken over the last couple of years. And the reason why we've taken the stance is, one, these rhinos are safe, but two, we feel that we need to educate everyone in the world about rhinos and rhino conservation. Now, it's very difficult to do this if you never show them. So over the next while, in the foreseeable future that we're filming here on Wild Earth, we will be filming black and white rhino. Both of these species on Phinda have their horns removed, and both are very, very safe. So I'm sure one or two of you are concerned. There is nothing to be concerned about. Please trust us when we say that these rhinos are not vulnerable at all. Tris, I believe, so Tris, you missed the rhinos yesterday, and so you're happy to see them today. I've been overwhelmed by all the encouraging messages and comments that we've seen, how excited everyone is that we can show rhinos. I believe yesterday Damon found a big bull rhino just like this one that we have over here, and he was trying to court a female. So unlike this male who's by himself, which is very typical behavior of an adult bull rhino, that male was busy courting a female, and that courtship will happen sometimes for a couple of days to a week, until the female might allow him to mate. And then if she doesn't allow him to mate, he will carry on. So I do think this afternoon we're going to head into that area again and see if we can find that male and female, and see if he has become more lucky, or if she's still giving him a bit of a hard time and making his life tough. But for now, we've got this very large bull rhino, and actually quite close to a waterhole. So we've got a waterhole maybe about 400-500 meters to the left of where this rhino is, and he has prime real estate over here. Now, male rhinos are very territorial, but you will find that a couple of males will share the territory surrounding this waterhole. And earlier on when we found him, he had his nose down and his tail curled, and he was marching around, and I suspected that he had picked up the scent of another male coming to his territory. Now, a male coming over into his territory isn't an issue as long as that male comes in and is submissive, because obviously those males have to come in and drink, and they will behave and they'll be submissive and show submissive behavior towards this male. They won't scent mark or defecate anywhere within his territory. And if another bull does come into his territory who does challenge him and scent marks and defecates over his territory, he'll track him down and chase him off. All right. Well, I'm so glad we're able to find a rhino for you this morning. But for now, we're going to head back over to the Kalahari to see what the meerkats are up to.
Good to have you with us again. This is so fun to see. Maybe not fun for the cricket, but what's happened here is an armoured ground cricket. This is like genre and my staple thing when we haven't found other things. We'll go find an armoured ground cricket. But this one's met an untimely end. You notice all these big thorns over here? And if you look over here, the one that my finger's actually on, there's a thorn there. So he's actually been impaled on this thorn. And what it is, I'm going to show you a picture of the bird that is responsible for this. You see there? It's called a common fiscal, and it's also known as a butcher bird or a Jackie hangman. And they are renowned for catching a whole lot of different prey items, and then they actually will have like a larder facility where they actually find spiky branches or thorn branches, and then they actually impale the prey on there, and they will come back to those later for feeding sometimes. So it's like a storage facility. It is genetically programmed in them, so even if there's a superabundance of food, they will still impale little prey items. But they're not thinking, okay, well, there's lots of food, so I'm not going to do it this time. But I've seen mice that they've done this to, impaled mice. I've seen agamas, these big lizards, that they've impaled as well. So this prey item is kind of a very average size food range for them. But it's quite gruesome, but interesting to see nonetheless. Sure. So we must just keep our eyes open for the birds. And you'll if you look around, we have tried, we haven't seen any more here, But normally if you find one prey item like this within a relatively small area, you'll find a number of others, because they're very territorial birds and they'll defend their territories aggressively against other intruders. So within that area you'll find a whole lot of different things that have been impaled on thorns. So geez, that's pretty cool to see that. And I promise we had nothing to do with it. You can see he's been dead for a while, you know. Well, nature can be really harsh sometimes, but that's nature. And then I have a quiz for the day. We haven't done a quiz yet for today. So apologies, we had a bit of a break up there. We have a quiz for the day. Any guesses as to what I'm holding in my hand? And I'm going to give a little clue. If I take one of them, they're super light. And if I crush them, they just go to powder. And it looks like plant matter. And you can get an idea of the size. They are tiny, but, and like I say, inside it's just plant matter. Any ideas, any suggestions? I don't need an answer right now, even for this afternoon session. If anyone wants to hazard a guess as to what these weird little things are that I'm holding in my hand, where they're from or what made them. Any guesses? So that's my question for today. Yeah, that's gonna be a tricky one, and I'd be very impressed if anyone gets it. I'm gonna be very, very chuffed. So the meerkats are long gone now. They've disappeared. So we're gonna start heading off back down to the vehicle. Sorry, I've just got a comment that came through. Just please repeat that. Our comms is a bit bad at the moment. Ha! Tswalu, you've nailed it halfway. It is poop. But I want to know what poop, and what is the correct term for this kind of poop. That's going to be the $1 million question there. But there we go. So you've got a good clue there already. Christy, apologies again. My comms is coming and going where we are. What's that?
She said scrub hair.
Scrub hair. No, it's not scrub hair. It's close. I'll give you another clue. Okay, so we know it's poop, and we know it's from something that's in the trees. Unfortunately, we can't see them now. Diana, you are a winner today. It is exactly caterpillar poop. This is caterpillar poop. And the term for it, I'm going to give that part away because some of you may or may not know that. It's called frass. F-R-A-S-S is the term for this. So caterpillar. So well done. That was a really good linking in there. So this is caterpillar poop. So it just shows in terms of the size. You can imagine what size caterpillar this is. And these are actually beautiful. They're about that long, and they're brilliant green with silver spots on them. And the caterpillars are what we call a marbled emperor moth. So they've actually finished. They're underground now. They're going to pupate, so they'll only be out again in the summer months. I would be very, very surprised if we actually saw a caterpillar that's still out and about in this cooler weather that we're having now. But very good, well done. So while we start moving our equipment back down to the vehicle, I think head over to Steve at Njuma and see what they've got down that side. Okay.
Well, thanks very much. We've got buffaloes with much larger poop than caterpillar poop. And they've been quite relaxed with us. The oxpeckers have moved in and gave them a bit of a fright, which happens sometimes. Oxpeckers are often a very good alarm signal for buffalo, and a very important sound to listen for if you ever are walking in the bush. If you ever do a guiding course, specifically a trails guide course, you need to know and identify the sound of oxpeckers. If you do not identify them, you fail. because oxpeckers obviously could be on a kudu or an impala. They could be on a rhinoceros as well as a big and hairy buffalo. So very important. Can you hear them? Much easier to when they fly off and they make this sound. You can just hear them there. So just move up a little bit. I don't want to scare the buffalo. It actually seems to be quite relaxed though. We've been trying to get in the way so that they come and surround the car. There's something quite special about having a buffalo herd completely engulf the car. I love the smells and the sounds. Let's just roll in here. You good, Darby? There we go. They're magnificent creatures. I love spending time with buffalo. Just listen to the sound of the oxpeckers. I'll keep quiet for a moment. Grew up like I did, going to my grandfather's farm in Pietermaritzburg almost every summer on the way down to the coast from Johannesburg. I used to wake up early in the morning, put my gumboots on and go milk the cows. That brings back some very fond memories for me, the smell and being inside a herd of buffalo. The noises they make, the smells, the flies. Flies aren't a fond memory, but it all brings back some very good nostalgia. If any of you can relate, send to a comment, let us know. Very active with their noses, buffalo. Their eyesight's okay, it's not the best, but they rely heavily on their hearing and their nose. If they smell something that is against what they like, a lion or us for example, that they react to it, but they quite often will investigate something with their eyes that they haven't quite smelt yet. It'd be quite daunting having a herd of 200, 300 buffalo come sort of trotting towards you with their noses in the air, looking directly at you, trying to figure out what you are. Seems very menacing, very threatening, but generally in a big herd, there's a nice big bull there. Generally in a big herd, as soon as they do pick up your scent, they generally do turn and run away most of the time. Those oxpeckers feed... Oh, there's a yellow-billed oxpecker on the back there, Darby.
On the back?
Yeah. Is it that one? No, that's a red, but on the one to the right of it, there's a... Yeah, out there. There we go. There's a yellow-billed oxpecker, everybody. That's very cool to see. Yellow-billed oxpeckers were on the brink of extinction not long ago, and EWT, Endangered Wildlife Trust, has reintroduced them back into the Kruger. And if you look closely in herds, you'll be able to see them from time to time. They love buffalo and rhino and giraffe. But oxpeckers feed almost exclusively on ticks, but they also will feed on other insects such as flies. You might see them sitting on the back of a buffalo and plucking flies off. I've never really noticed them doing that, but according to the bird information, they will feed on other insects, but they do feed primarily on ticks. And that's actually the blood that they're looking for. An adult oxpecker can feed on 1,500 tick nymphs in a day. Now, someone's gone and fed that to them. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how many just sits there going, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, counting. So, other flying insects that might be hovering around the buffalo, and they also will directly feed on blood from wounds. One of the issues oxpeckers have with many animals is that they'll keep a wound open by picking at the scab. If you've ever seen giraffe with very funny wounds on the body, it's actually called papillomavirus, which is transferred between giraffes by oxpeckers, and it's essentially a type of skin herpes that giraffe have, and it is caused by oxpeckers keeping wounds open. If you've ever seen a giraffe with all of these welts and really weird looking bumps on the skin, that is exactly what it is. It makes my skin crawl at the moment just to think about it. But viruses, diseases out in nature, many of them are very natural and transferred. And the injuries or illnesses will affect weaker individuals more than stronger individuals. And as we always talk about, survival of the fittest. Those not strong enough to cope get sort of removed from the population. But so cool. There he is again, the oxpecker, Davy. You can still see him. It's very special to see. If you are an avid birder and you spend time in the Kruger National Park, it always pays to take your binoculars and look at the oxpeckers and see. I mean, the yellow-billed has got a half yellow, half red beak, and the red-billed has got the red beak. You find red-billed oxpeckers all over the place, but by looking closely, you might get to see the yellow-bills as well. Yes, Dennis, the buffalo are in great condition. We've had a bumper year when it comes to rainfall and vegetation. So the buffalo are looking very, very healthy, very fit, and it's going to be a good season for them. Last 3 years or so in these areas, the buffalo took a very, very bad knock with the drought. We saw enormous buffaloes decimated. You could tell that they were enormous because of the horns. And the Biola Pride, just before I started here over 2 years ago, was killing. You were here, Davy, eh? How many buffalo did they kill? Like 4 or 5 at a time? They would kill them and just leave them because they weren't really strong enough to run away. And lions are like that. Predators are like that. If they're able to sort of catch a group of animals together, they'll just keep killing. And it is a sad state of affairs, but lions will sort of selectively remove the weak from the population. But anyway, Tristan is still with the Duchess from the West, Chidulu. Let's go back over to them.
We are still sitting with Chidulu. She's absolutely flat fast asleep. I think this is where she's going to settle for the day. I'm really, really hoping that's the case, and we can spend some time with her this afternoon, especially if she's been calling like she was this morning. Maybe this afternoon she'll continue to do it, and who knows, maybe attract the attention of one of the boys. You never know if they're close by. Could be interesting to follow her around this afternoon. And she's kind of in an area where if she does go west, she'll go to Simambili, which is still good for us. And if she goes east, obviously she'll be on Juma. So it's going to be good. Now, thank you, James Richard, for successfully IDing the dogs. You were saying that it's a split off, well, a separation of the Sands pack. Whether they've actually split, no one's really sure. But given their calling and marking and moving on their own, I suspect that they might have split. It's often this time of the year where the dogs do split, where you're going to get a situation where the animals that are not breeding and are not part of the alpha pair or the beta female, they're going to start moving off and trying to find their own pack that they can potentially start breeding. So it's very common to see wild dog changes in their packs just before the denning season. So that breeding area, and then through denning season, you see the movement of them is at the most during that period. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Like I say, I was pretty sure when I saw them sniffing around there that it wasn't the Investec pack like I had initially thought. So it's always nice to have that. It's part of what makes this whole thing so amazing is the fact that we can utilize you guys as well, and we can be interactive with you just like you are interactive with us, and we all have a platform to learn, which is pretty cool. So I do appreciate it, and it's why we would love for you guys to carry on supporting us, so that we can keep these drives going for as long as possible. You can just follow the link below, and we'll try and keep it going for many months to come. Don't know why Steve is shouting. Steve is he's very loud on the radio today. I'm gonna have a word with him when we get back to camp. He's been blasting my eardrum all morning. like he's making sure that everyone hears him unnecessarily loud. I'm just joking. I'm just giving Steve a bit of a joke around. Sometimes we have our radios up a little bit because certain radios come through softer than others, but Steve is definitely the boombox of this morning's game drive, because every time I have my radio on, I just hear this booming voice coming into my ear every now and then. It certainly makes for a battered eardrum at times. But I'm surprised with Shadulu's movement, how she was so busy calling and then all of a sudden just went flat. I think it's just a symptom of how warm it is today. It's incredibly hot at the moment, and I think that's why. I think she was moving and just got tired and ended up lying down. Now we're going to carry on sitting with her, and well, probably actually going to leave her and probably head home. We'll come back this afternoon and try to follow up. In the meantime though, we're going to send you, I think, to and beyond Ngala and see what they're up to.
Welcome back to and beyond Phinda Private Game Reserve. We decided to head back into the area where we left the 7 males, the 5 youngsters and 2 adult males, to see what they're up to. And as usual, it seems like they're not up to much at all. So I see one of the young males busy cozying up to who could be his father. Obviously we're not 100% sure which is the father of these cubs, as both males mated with the female, which is actually quite typical behavior, where a female would prefer to mate with both males because A, she may not fall pregnant during the first time she mated with the other male, but this also in some ways fools the male or both of the males to think that they're the father. Looks like, I wonder if he had some hair or something stuck in his palate. You can see how one is enjoying the young male busy grooming him on his shoulder and is loving that affection, but also is licking up and down towards his palate, maybe while he was grooming himself or grooming one of the other lions. He just happened to have a little bit of hair left on his tongue or his palate.
Almost like a dog with peanut butter.
Yeah, Marcel says it looked like a dog with peanut butter. Devu, so Phinda Private Game Reserve is around 28,000 hectares, and yes, they could in fact find their own territories. There are some parts of Phinda where these lions very seldom roam to. So we've got 3 prides of Phinda, one in the far south, one in the far north, and then one sort of central south. So that whole belt in the north of the reserve at the moment doesn't have a pride of lions. And in the far southeast of our reserve, this pride, mountain pride, very seldom ever goes to. So yes, it is big enough for these youngsters, if they were to leave the males or leave the pride, to head off and start their own little territory. But usually what we will do then is, for genetic diversity, if we can, we will send them to another game reserve who is looking for male lions to improve their genetic diversity. And that's generally what we do, or what we try to do with the male lions once they get kicked out. Now it's quite interesting, you'll notice how the one male has his head completely flopped down, and this other male who had his head up, I think he was just enjoying being groomed. And these 5 males, well, these 5 young males and 2 adult males, I think are just going to end up sitting here throughout the entire day, waiting patiently for the 2 other females to come back. And they will know if those females have made a kill just by picking up on the scent of whatever they've killed on their mothers. And you'll see their behavior will change completely. They'll come over and greet them, and the moment they smell the blood or whatever else the prey has left on the mothers, you'll see they'll get very excited and almost start to trot straight off into the direction where the mother came from, and then she will start to lead them back towards the carcass. These males will follow not too far behind. The problem that this pride will have is that these two males will completely dominate the rest of the pride off of that kill. Alright everybody, well unfortunately we are running out of time, so that is all for this morning drive. We look forward to seeing you on this afternoon drive for our sunset safari.